Okay, we'll call the meeting to order. Please rise for the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. Roll call, please. Sorry, we moved fast in this place, too.
Mayor Caucus.
Here.
Mrs. Passio. Here. Mr. Ranieri.
Here.
Mr. Lovenstein.
Here.
Mr. Farrell.
Here.
Mrs. Kelly.
She's absent.
Mr. Root.
Here.
Mr. Long.
Here.
Mr. Bayshore.
Here.
Mr. Dioria.
Here.
And who else do I see? Harry.
Present.
Mr. Rosa.
Okay, public notice of this meeting pursuant to the Open Public Meetings Act has been given by the clerk in the following manner. One, posted on the bulletin board at the Borough Clerk's office on January 3rd, 2019. And two, emailed to the retrospect and Current Post on January 3rd, 2019. First order of business is public hearing. This is for ordinance 1901. This is an ordinance to amend the code
Where did I put them?
for sewers. This is new sewer rates. This portion of the meeting is open to the public. Anyone wishing to speak, please come to the microphone, state your name and address. Very controversial. Seeing no one, is there a motion to close?
I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Lovenstein, second by Ms. Passio.
Lovenstein and Passio.
Yep.
Yes, ma'am.
And then, is there, would someone like to make a motion?
I make a motion to
And I'll second that.
Second and final reading as advertised according to law.
It's second by Mr. Lovenstein. Motion by Root, second by Mr. Lovenstein. Roll call, please.
Mr. Lovenstein.
Yes.
Mrs. Passio. Yes. Mr. Root.
Yes.
Mr. Farrell.
Yes.
And Mr. Ranieri.
Yes.
I rise for absent.
That takes care of that. New business discussion for the meeting. I know it's a lot, but most of the stuff is pretty small, so we can go through it pretty quickly. The used car lot licenses for Mr. Schmidt, which is the, what's the name of the property on Clemson Road? What's it called? Charlie's Auto? Yeah, Charlie's Auto, but he's got the car lot, though. I forget what the car lot's called. Belmar Collision and Toyota. Isn't there one also? Isn't there one
We
for
already did one at the previous meeting.
previous meeting?
That's the fourth one, yeah.
Okay, as long as they do their paperwork, this is not a big deal. New EMT hires, I did speak to Ms. Kelly. One thing that we did, I thought that was very positive with the Public Works Department, we did meet with the new hire. So I'm going to ask the same thing. I think all new hires should get a little, at least a meet and greet from their director, myself, the administrator, because what's happening a lot of times is, I mean, it sounds terrible. I have no problem relying on our department heads giving recommendations for hirings, but I still think there's an obligation to at least meet the people. I think it was positive when we met the Public Works guy, kind of get a little understanding. So with these two EMTs, I'm asking for the Public Works Director to, pick a committee person, myself, Jim, and either run down to the fire department or come here.
Not the public works.
Or Public Safety Director. Public Safety Director. So,
I have a question.
yes,
The original email I received had 3 people,
There's only 2.
so there is only 2.
I was aware there's only 2 guys, yeah.
Now, you want me to reach out to Fred and I'll...
Yeah, I don't think there's a big problem for the hire. I think it was a positive thing to at least, Harry, you might correct it. It's minimal, and I think we all take responsibility when we promote somebody or hire somebody, so why don't we at least say hello to them before we do that?
I'll coordinate it with...
Okay, sounds great. And these are part-time EMTs, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right, and then resolution for 2% increase for statutory employees in fire department contractual. So there's a contract with the fire department that really we don't, I don't think we have to do much with that. That's pretty much automatic, I think.
Yeah.
But the 2% increase for statutory, if everyone recalls, this is the statutory employees are the tax collector, the tax assessor, and the CFO are 2% or statutory employees, which means their salaries can never be reduced. Right, if I'm saying this right. So our practice has been for many years now is once we get through the beginning of the year, all contracts, we take the aggregate of the contracts. We've been very good lately that we really have done nothing more than 2% raises. So the idea is that people who are not contractual will get this. Now, this does not include people who are not statutory. So for example, your police chief is not in here. Our process has always been to look at the budget. We look at the budget and do those employees. while we're looking at where we're spending this. It gives us a little more power over those people who are non-contractual. It's not to say we can't have contracts with people, but this is only the 3 statutory employees. So hopefully that's not controversial. We did have a couple problems with this in years past, but I hope we're not going to have that problem. Anybody have any questions on that one?
Why are you looking at me?
Resolution increasing the bid threshold and appointing a QPA. So this is also, because we appoint a QPA, it allows us to go to,
Higher bid threshold.
How much?
Higher quote. Bid threshold goes up to $40,000, and the second, for 2 quotes, goes up to $6,000. I think it's, gosh, it's been so long since I've known it with Allison. I think it's $32,000. 32 for the bid, and for quotes, $4,000.
it's much lower than that. Yeah, 17, I think.
Yeah, 17? Nope, 17.5 is a whole totally different thing. That's the pay to play. That's a whole separate entity.
Well, the question I guess is, we've been using the QPA. It cost us $5,000 a year. It's been Bob Law for now a good 3 or 4 years. He's always done it for us. If you recall, Bob also was a guy who was a backup for us. It was nice to have somebody who could step in when we did have a problem a few years ago. So it's nice to keep Bob sort of on a hook. I would argue that I think it's something important that the borough has to do a better job of having some redundancy. So what do I mean? I think, a Jim or someone else in his office should become the QPA. We're relying on somebody in another town, which isn't terrible, as opposed to having someone in-house.
I've already looked into it, and the exam is in June, and I'm going to take it.
Yeah, and so this way, we wouldn't have to appoint anybody. He's already working for us, things like that.
I'll still need to be appointed QPA.
You still would have to be an appointment. Okay, and I understand that. But I think having someone in-house, just like, and Joyce, I don't think it's on here, but we might as well talk about.
I pretty much do it anyway.
I know you do.
Yeah.
You need somebody to sign the paper.
What was Bob, is Bob still available until he passes?
Yeah, Bob's been excellent with us. I mean, whenever we have an issue, we send over the paperwork to Bob. I agree. Is that what's happened? Mark, you've had that experience too, or we've sent something to Bob. I know we did it with the fire truck. I know we did it with some public works equipment, and it helped us out. And the other one I wanted to bring up was we don't have a backup for our registrar. Now, currently, we have a shared service agreement with Barrington. Does that renew automatically, or do we have to do that every year?
I'm waiting to hear any day that they're gonna wanna renew, so.
What that does is whenever Joyce has a day off, or she's sick or unavailable, anybody who needs a death certificate or a birth certificate, which we did have one this year, everyone doesn't know
Don't
that.
mention that.
We had a birth certificate this year. Someone was born in their house.
Yes.
Yes.
It was a,
Did you know that?
only the 3rd one in my
Intentionally
entire
born in
time
the
here.
house or accidentally?
No, she didn't expect it. It was early. And it was
How
born.
unusual is that?
It's
Very
third.
unusual. I've been here 27 years. I've done 3 birth certificates. The first 2 were done on a typewriter with carbon paper. So with the new electronic system, this was the first one ever.
Because it's the place where births are, right? Everyone goes to Voorhees or Camden or wherever the Stratford, where
Put it
the
in your hat. Make it
where the hospitals are. So the point though is we need a backup. Right now we have a shared service agreement with Barrington. We're looking at in-house again, incentivizing employees to go. We've talked about this before, getting employees to get the licenses that help the municipality. This is once again, small municipalities, it's very difficult. So then, shared service agreement with Magnolia for repair of municipal vehicles. Mr. Wozon thought this was okay. We really haven't used them a whole lot recently, but I guess it's nice to have it as an option. They give us they haven't changed their rate in years, is that correct? So the idea here, once again, if a truck breaks down, we can take it wherever we want. We could also take it to Magnolia. They have I think he's full-time. Is he full-time, or is he part-time, full-time? He's a full-time guy that does auto repair at Magnolia.
Mayor,
Yes,
when I do the resolution for the appointing the QPA,
yes.
should I say until such time as we have someone in-house? Can we do that? To say that in the
No.
resolution? No? Well, then how do we limit that?
What if we get in 6 months somebody else?
Then we don't even appoint him at that point.
And does the other one end, or doesn't it until the end of the year?
Well, it wouldn't matter because it's a QPA anyway.
You're paying for it, $100 a week.
Right, so you would then terminate it. You would do a separate resolution terminating it.
Okay, so we don't have to have an agreement, you can just terminate the agreement. This agreement has a termination.
Should we say month to month? Should we say anything in there at all?
You saying we have the right to terminate it anytime?
Like we have
I
every other
may fail
year.
the test. I
Yeah.
may not even pass the
Right.
test.
That's a good point.
That's when.
First of all, I have full faith, I have full faith in Jim's testimony.
Way to stay positive, Jim.
But no, it's,
We can terminate the agreement
I'll
anytime.
say prayers, Jim.
thank you.
No
I'll
vegan,
leave.
okay.
Okay, that's it. Just leave written notice. Is there a contract?
Get the
of any sort?
rosary.
There is an agreement.
Well,
It's just a resolution. We don't have an actual contract, do we? Just,
It's not an actual contract, then you do whatever you want.
Okay, all right.
That's even better.
It's even better if it's just a resolution.
If they give you a 30-day notice kind of thing, then that's sort of different.
Okay. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's working for us for now, it's gotta be, we're 4 or 5 years into it. Okay, COLA ordinance, if everybody remembers that, that's the cost of living adjustment ordinance that allows us to raise it up to,
0.5.
3.5% from, I didn't get a chance to review the ordinance because it was done when I was gone, but I think the state is allowing 1.5. Does it say that? in
Well,
there?
here I have
it doesn't matter, though, we do it anyway because it gives us flexibility.
Yes, it
We don't have to use this ability to increase line
But it will
items.
increase it.
1.0 increase is what Mike.
It's
did.
1, it goes
One.
from 1 to 3.5.
But it says up to 3.5 is what it says, yeah.
Okay, so that's really not an issue, we do it every year. Part-time janitor hire, the Public Works Personnel Committee met with the gentleman. I think it was a positive thing.
We started very quickly, too.
He started
The
good.
next day or two?
Yep, he helped me out yesterday.
I walked into the office and there he was.
He was there helping with the,
Oh, okay. I
cleaned
didn't
up,
see it.
ran the vacuum.
So is that- and,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So just be clear, what was his amount of hours? Was it 20? 30 hours.
a week.
Okay. And so everyone hears it here, because it was said at the Public Works Committee meeting, was that this job, there is no intention of making this person full-time. This is a part-time position. It doesn't preclude this person from applying for a full-time position or being promoted, but not promised. Do you understand? In the past, we've had some issues where we hired part-time people, leading to with this assumption, and it cost us aggravation in the past. Okay, $2,500 round, 18 Historic Preservation Fund for World War I plaque. I received a letter saying that that application that we had submitted for the World War I plaque, where all the money was raised, they now have reimbursed us all that money. So I think some of you know this, so the plan now is we have $2,500 that will replenish that fund, and we now can use the rest of that $2,500 to keep improving that area.
The first $2,500 for the plaque that was done has been settled. Everything has been settled. We
Great.
got from donations.
But now we kind of reimburse ourselves and hand off the,
Correct.
okay.
We need a resolution for this then, to accept.
To accept the money?
Accept this money.
Yes.
Okay. So a resolution accepting the money, and then we'll finish spending it in the springtime, maybe do something around the cannon. I don't know if everybody, when we were there that day, Mr. Noble from Beaverbrook had also suggested maybe painting the cannon again. There was a suggestion maybe to change some of the railings. Remember how we changed some of the railings from metal to plastic and back and forth? The metal seems.
Grade, as long as nobody, no.
I know, that was the issue, but there's, where do we spend the money down there to protect those assets? Flags are always a positive. Lighting, yes. Resolution, here's the only kind of big one here, a little more discussion. Resolution in support of Path to Progress. This is not a test, but did anybody read the 37 pages? Okay. Ms. Kelly did, and she had a few questions, but since she's not here this evening, what I would ask, if everyone would like me to give just a basic summary, is the Senate President had a commission brought together that came up with ideas on fixing our pension shortfall. We don't have enough money to pay every year, and the cost of rising health insurance for public employees.
I did read that.
Did you read it?
Yeah, your email.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
What'd you think?
He agrees.
Seems like a lot, I don't know.
You mean, you think his ideas were a lot?
Yeah, well, I just don't see it getting done.
Well, I guess, so here's the question. I thought that as a small municipality representing 8,400 people, I was in a room with most of the mayors of Camden County. So once again, we were representing close to 800,000 people if you aggregate all of us together. The general consensus was that something has to be done. I think everyone had Mike's opinion that none of all these 25 ideas, no way are all 25 going to pass, correct?
Right.
But part of the idea was you have to do something. And realize we have no ability. We get a bill from the pension, right, Jim? They send us a bill, we pay it. We have no choice. If they raise our percentage, we have to pay it. We have no choice. Health insurance, once again, is a negotiated item. But the way the law is currently written, we can't argue that we could save money, so we want you to go to a lower plan. They have to agree to that. So management doesn't have the ability just to impose on its employees these things. The beauty of the state government is they could change the rules of the game. I like to equate them to the NFL owners. As the NFL owners, they can sit around and change the game, the rules of the game, and then we have to abide by it. So this path to progress that the Senate President has come up with these ideas says something like, for example, instead of having platinum health insurance, which anybody who in the government knows what the platinum insurance is, our employees pay close to nothing. They get the best care, everything's the best. It's extremely expensive.
I'm insulted.
It is insulting.
By 42 cents, do I pay?
Yeah, she paid 42 cents
For a
for it.
prescription.
Nice to have, but expensive to take.
But very expensive, but I would also, if everyone remembers, on Chapter 78, all employees are now paying much more towards that plan. What the path said was, one of the ideas was, you lower from a platinum to a gold. The savings for, the employee would have savings because they would be paying a smaller percentage of the premium, right? If they're paying 25%, 25% of 30,000 is greater than 25% of 25,000. So they would see a savings. And the municipalities in the state would save close to, I think, between $700 million and $1 billion a year. And the idea is to take that $700 million to $1 billion and pay the pension payment. And the reason for that, again, is, as everybody knows, within 2 years, well, maybe everyone doesn't know this, but I think within 2 years, the judge's pension goes defunct first, because they sued because you weren't allowed to reduce the salary of the judge. And so they sued, and they didn't increase their pension contribution, so that pension will default first. And then the second one will be the teacher's pension will default in 3 to 4 years. So you're aware of that?
That sounds right.
Okay. So one of the things when I went to this meeting, if I haven't mentioned it before, was if, for example, the pension was to go defunct, it can't by law. So the money that would be raised, and the Senate President said he will not raise taxes, even though our governor wants to raise taxes, which I can't believe he's even saying that, in the most taxed state in the country, is the Senate President says no, the governor says yes, the Senate President's going to win, and he argued that the bills for teachers' health benefits and pension payments will be sent back to the Board of Education.
Wow, can't wait.
So the Board of Education then would add that to our property tax bills, which we would be mailing out as a municipality, and that would go up maybe 25 to 30% increase in property tax.
We'll get done for it.
And we'll get paid for it. So from what I understand, the State Board of Education Association has argued, News Use Scoreboard has already agreed to this, that they think that there should be changes. They agree to everything, but they said agreed. And all I'm just asking is, for us as a little tiny municipality, I think we should say, yeah, we think this is a great idea. We passed a standard resolution that they sent to us, so the Senate President sent us this
20 years
resolution.
late.
We passed the resolution, and Runnemede at least looks like we think it's a good idea that some changes happen.
And what about the union?
We have no control if anything happens.
What about them?
Yeah, the peanut gallery.
I agree.
Oh, really? I'm serious.
Were you
Don't you
elected?
think that's going to be the major stumbling block? The unions?
You know,
I'm not in.
I absolutely agree that that would be the major thing. So the only thing that I would say to anybody listening in the audience is that I would hope that the unions realize they need to solve this problem too. So they should come to the table, say maybe we could save money on health insurance, maybe we could save money on something.
Joyce.
As long as the money goes to pay the
I did
pension.
a job the other day, I didn't get it.
Yeah.
There you
Deadline,
go.
spur action.
Nobody's wiping my tears, so.
I agree, deadlines will spare actions, but
Right.
when do you think it wait? Do they wait till the first?
It's always the last one.
Yeah.
It'll be the last.
So if anybody pays attention to the state budget, if you looked at the,
And I feel like another bit of news that came out yesterday was related to what we're talking about.
what was that?
Certain clipping.
Oh, the Republican, yeah, you're probably right. So,
You want to switch parties?
somebody, switch parties.
Rolling back.
But, what was the last point of this? You know, once again, we have no ability to make these changes, but we get the pension bills, right? We can't dispute them, we can't fight them, we can't do anything. Oh, I know what I was gonna say. The pension bill goes up every year, a couple $2 billion. Where does that money come from? That's the argument. That's why one of the things when we borrow money, we borrow just about as much money so that our mortgage payment stays the same. The state didn't do that. There's an adjustable rate mortgage, I guess, and it goes off there. So does anybody have any questions on that? You think this is a big deal for us to do this?
No.
No?
Nice stretch.
Nice
She
job.
knows it.
So put it
Okay.
on?
Put it on, yes. Okay, Keith Knight's recommendation, anyone doesn't know, Mr. Knight is our construction official and zoning officer, amending CO reinspection expiration of zoning permits. Do you want to add those?
Sure.
You know what this one?
You want to?
Oh.
Well, I got it in like layman's terms. So
You do layman's.
It's not lawyer's term.
Yeah, I hear you.
All right, basically, right now, we're going to be doing this probably every month, maybe every other, depending on what Keith is able to find. What we're working on this month is 395-21, well, 395. The first one is -21C, permit required. Basically, it's the state put out that a permit was required for sheds over 100 square feet, and that's what our ordinance was.
Yeah.
So what they did is the state changed it to 200 square feet a couple years ago.
So we should amend it.
So we're still at 100 square feet. So there's a 99 square foot limbo that in between. So this one is just changing the ordinance.
Does everybody, that's fine for everybody, at 200 square feet?
So-
Not a big deal.
Basically,
Instead of a 10 by 10, you could put a 20 by 10.
Yeah,
or-
you know, I.
12 by 15.
That's something like.
I mean, the only issue is it wouldn't stop, the rules still would be, the setbacks would still stay the same.
that's
Yeah.
just the square footage of the building, because
The shed.
the sheds are bigger these days. I don't even know if there's a 100-foot split shed out there anymore.
So you're
I think
saying-
the Tupperware ones are even bigger than that.
Are you saying that a permit will not be required, so then it's going to reduce our revenue?
No, probably not, because
They don't exist.
there's not too many sheds under
Just
200
wanted to-
square feet.
Okay, I just wanted to,
Well, we weren't able to charge them anyhow. We were at 100 square feet.
We're allowed to be greater than the states.
Exactly.
We're allowed
Well,
to
no,
go
this
more.
this is,
misunderstood.
this is-
Anything over 100 you can charge.
right.
So now it's anything
Over
over.
200.
Yes.
So anything in
No more
between
bills.
that we normally would have.
He's got, Jim's point is, what is the revenue impact?
Yeah, it's
Sure.
not
I
much.
don't know it's much. I don't think.
Yeah.
Maybe
I
15
think-
sheds will.
It's a good point.
Good for the
Raising
residents.
awareness.
It's a good
I
point.
think the permit, if I seen correctly, was $25 for a shed.
Yeah, how many do?
So,
We still require a zoning permit, correct?
I don't know.
Okay, the reason we want a zoning permit
Well,
is we've had too many sheds built on people's property lines,
Oh,
over people's property lines. We
How
had
long
it,
does it take to get that?
it should take 1 day, 2 days. The point though is that the reason that, I want everybody in the audience to know,
If I come to you and say I need a permit, I want to get a shed, how long is it going to take?
it should take more than a couple days. If you have a survey showing where your property line is,
Yeah.
Patty, we had a person on Hirsch, do you remember this one? They put a fence, they put a pool in. Keith said, you gotta have a fence around the pool. They put a fence around the pool. Guess where they put the fence? On the neighbor's yard next door.
Hey, I'm not.
So now we had to go after them to move the fence.
I'm not
We
arguing.
had-
I just.
Okay.
I'm telling you why we need a survey.
That there's a good time in between, like if I come and I need a
This way,
permit, I don't want
I'm gonna read
somebody
yours.
to tell me.
I agree.
have to wait a week or 2
You shouldn't have to wait 2
Because
weeks.
you're not around.
That's a separate issue, but I agree with you.
Okay.
Making permits.
We've had too many problems where people don't get zoning permits. Then we have to fight with it. We have, oh, shoot. Can I stop for just a second?
Sure.
So I don't forget. I made a mistake. Keith brought someone to court the other day. It was a gentleman on Payne Avenue. He's a public works guy from Barrington. Remember the guy with this broken stormwater line? Remember the stormwater that went into the creek?
We had 2 there.
Okay. Kenny, is that his name? I forgot to bring this up last month. We have our easement to go in there and fix the pipe on Payne. After we fixed the pipe, he went and put a driveway in. He did not get a zoning permit. He put his concrete driveway on top of our easement. I told Keith that I would bring it to Caucus or to council to what I felt would be hopefully agreeable. Keith, of course, the law says he's got to cut the concrete and move it off of his easement. We could force him to do it. I don't think we should, unless Carrie says I'm wrong. I'm under the impression we put a PVC pipe in that'll be in for the next over 100 years. So hopefully we never have to go underneath this. What I would like to see us do is there a way legally, I'm sure there is, but I don't know how much work it is. I mean, do we put some kind of, the idea that if we do have to get on this easement, he has to we don't have to redo the side, the driveway if we rip it up to have to fix it. Understand? We're not liable for his mistake. This is the shed. This is the shed on Bassett Avenue again. This is the same thing. This guy put it on there, and now what's gonna happen when that pipe breaks?
You'd have to sign off on it.
He will. So he just doesn't want to have to cut his driveway and lose 3 feet. Did you look at
As
it?
long as it's on him when we go in to fix
Can you
it.
make a note that we can get this guy? And did you remember the address, or who was out there?
I don't remember.
If somebody sends me the information, I'll figure it
I mean, it's just simply saying that this easement is our easement, and he has no right to do what he did. So we have no obligation to fix something.
out. It's similar to Cali Court.
It's simply no obligation to fix it. But we can go in there and rip his driveway up if we have to, because he wasn't supposed to put it.
And he's gonna put it back.
And
Well,
he's got, well,
Well, yeah.
that's what this agreement has to say.
right, that's what the agreement has said. Okay, but yes, barring the agreement, no, we couldn't rip up his driveway unless we were to declare it an unsafe structure.
So he has to agree to that, or he has to rip it up now.
Yeah, or Keith's gonna say it's a zone, he didn't follow the rules, he put it on his property.
Those get very nasty because those are per day violations.
Yes, yes. So I think this is something we need to get resolved.
Resolved.
Keith likes to close things out, and that's why I didn't mean to jump in there, but that was your point, closing stuff out, so we can remember this one.
All
Sorry.
right, no problem. Well, let me read what Dan wrote, so it'll sum up a couple things for Pat. No person shall erect or construct a garden-type utility shed and similar structure that is 200 square feet or less in use group R2, R3, R4, or R5, and which do not contain water, gas, oil, or sewer connections without first obtaining a zoning permit issued by the zoning officer. The shed or structure shall be placed at a distance of at least 5 feet from side or rear property lines and shall not be placed closer than 10 feet from the street line. The cost of the application permit shall be $25.
So all that I changed was 100 to 200. Beyond that, the code is verbatim.
So 10 feet from the front yard?
Not closer to 10.
That's what it says right now.
Did it say you can't install anything less than 200 square feet? So if you want to put
Yes.
a 10 by 10 shed up, you can't?
And I,
No.
Is that what it says?
That's not what it says.
No, it's-
Randy,
It says that if you are to install a shed of 200 square feet or
Okay.
fewer, you do not need a permit. If you
Construction
exceed that, or zoning permit.
really?
Yes, that was what the ordinance, that's what Keith is asking for. That's what our code currently says. What Mike just read, or Councilman Root just read, is what we have with the number 100 changed to 200. That is all I did. But I have to include the
Did that
entire
say
section.
10 feet from the front yard?
no.
I have to include
It
the
says-
entire section. For the front verb.
What?
Street line.
Wait, no, the shed structure shall be placed a distance of 5 feet from side or rear
Uh-huh.
and shall not be placed closer than 10 feet from the street line.
That is your current code.
Really?
Yes.
Does anyone have a problem with a shed in the front yard?
Well, yeah, but
No one ever does it.
I had it on my house in '05, and I had to be 7 feet off the property line.
Okay, I understand that. But your front yard setback was 35 feet.
No, but,
We're making the shed 10 feet,
no, it said 5 feet from the property line.
side and rear.
Right.
And mine's a side too. Aren't we at 7 feet? Or is it-
I'm only
And
arguing the 10 foot.
When I built my addition, it was 5.
Nick, are you saying that the shed should be past where the fence could be?
Oh,
Yes.
Where your fence can come up to when your home,
Yes.
that's where your shed could be, that's it.
You know what?
Maybe we should-
I think we need to come back to this one. I apologize.
What was that?
We should have 2 feet. Because I
Looks
guess-
like you know what we currently
Okay.
have. I literally just changed the code to number 1.
And I appreciate that. We never paid attention to
once you
this.
put the shed,
Yeah,
you could have a house. Once you do that,
All the way up here, right?
right,
nothing's changed.
Front of your house?
right.
You know,
Sometimes back
It's
up.
always been 5.
You can only have your shed up to
I think the 5 feet is correct. I think you're right. It's always been the same.
10th Street from there. They should follow your fence.
Okay.
The only reason I get nervous, I'll tell you why I get nervous
Do you
about
do you want me to go back to Keith and,
I think we need to talk to them.
okay?
I'm gonna tell you I'll tell you my 2 concerns, if you wanna write it down.
Yeah, go ahead.
I'm nervous that we allow people to put sheds up without a zoning permit, and I'm gonna tell you why. Every single time we allow people to do things without at least some of our guidance, and I agree, Patty's concern is we're not business friendly. That's a separate issue. But what I hate, Patty, is I get more friggin' phone calls about people who do stuff without following the rules. And then we sit there and say, well, you put the shed on your property line. Now your neighbor, you know what I mean? What if he puts his shed against it? You know, that's why the 5-foot setback. It's really neighbors against neighbors, which cause all my aggravation. Neighbors put the shed up right in front of the driveway. They pour concrete. What happens when they pour concrete?
Well, the other thing, Mayor, is don't forget, we already have one issue already standing by where the shed's over top of the manhole.
Yes, we have a shed over a manhole. We had a shed on Bassett Avenue. We have we have a driveway over top of a stormwater line. All this kind of stuff.
What now,
We can make
saying that
this
it's
almost
not in the
nothing.
front yard, what do we consider corner lots?
Okay, so the definition of quarter lot, and it's in the ordinance, and it's in there twice, is if this is a property,
2 front yards.
the fence can't be passed, a 6-foot fence cannot be past the front of the house. On a corner property, you have 2 front yards.
Right.
You see that?
So if you want to put a shed in,
So the shed area is only back
you
here.
put it on either side.
No, you'd have to put it here, you'd have to put it here, back here, 5 feet off of anything.
Okay.
You know, once again, we've had problems, I'm gonna tell you all of them. We had a fence, somebody put the fence, and you did it. Your guy, your house.
Your house you want to do.
Your house has a fence 2 feet off the property line, doesn't it? Isn't the fence that the guy put in before you, and then you're cleaning it up because there's all that brush that grows between the 2 fences?
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to say is that these property lines, they cause a lot of aggravation because people don't know where they are.
All right, so what do you want to say?
Clarification on the setback, right?
It should be this. It should be that the fences have to, the front yard setback. That's exactly. No shed can be closer than the front yard setback. I agree.
There may be another provision that provides for that somewhere else, and maybe it just never got taken
Okay.
care of.
I'll run it by
Sure,
you.
because the last, if I recall correctly, when I was, because the change in ordinance, the first thing to do was find the ordinance. I think it was around 2009, so perhaps it got changed then, it just never got.
Okay.
That's a possibility.
Okay, what a front yard setback is, how close your house can be built to the front yard, to the street.
I'm only thinking of the house on the corner near me.
Okay, so let me explain, okay.
You understand?
I understand, because our zoning officer was not following the rules the way he should have been. So a lot of times, we have right now, I think a 35-foot setback, does anybody know? 25 to 35 feet. No house can be closer, but there are many houses that are closer. So what we do is our ordinance, our ordinance currently says, if the house on the right's 20 and the house on the left's 20, well, you're okay with 20. It actually says it in our ordinance. But if without the house is being set back, the minimum of these setbacks. So if you have a piece of property, what you do is you draw dotted lines, and in that dotted line area is where you're allowed to build your house. Now, why do you say that? Because, think about it, if you have a driveway here and you want to park a car here, and your neighbor decides to put a shed right there, right at the corner, how's your wife or you going to see as you're backing out? And that shed's there. And we have a separate ordinance that says, what do we have, clear? The Linda Hurd property. That you have to be 10 feet of clearance.
Under 35.
Is that what it was? Under 35 inches. So there's a separate ordinance that says you can't block the first 35 inches. So all I'm saying is, if you can't build a house closer to here, I don't think we should allow sheds closer to there. Now, everyone's always allowed to come get a variance. They can come in front of the board. But I agree with Keith that if you just allow people to put it in the backyard, that's fine. But they gotta show a survey. Too many times people do stuff. And you know what? If I could simply go there and move it for them, I would do it for them because it's so much aggravation to get people to follow the rules after they already did it. Because you know what they say?
Okay, so this is a corner house.
Yes.
Corner property.
Yes.
Okay, I want to put a shed on here.
Yes.
Where can I put it?
Anywhere in your backyard.
This is, okay, it's a little tiny backyard.
5 feet off the side and
Lot
back.
here,
Yeah,
lot here.
you're not allowed anywhere, not here, you got 5-foot setback, 5-foot setback. And then you can't go past the corner of your house and you can't go past the corner of that house.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes, it makes perfect, yes, I understand what you're saying.
Okay.
I think the
Just thinking
setback's
along
7
these
feet
lines.
though.
On a side yard,
I think it's 7 too.
on a side yard, guys.
Yeah.
We're talking about front yard.
That would work. You were talking 5 foot.
Read it again.
The ordinance says, the setback is 5 feet.
Read the whole one.
Shed or structure shall be placed at a distance of at least 5 feet from side and rear property line, and shall not be placed closer than 10 feet from street line. Which we're
That's
gonna
the part
change.
that I'm upset
Which we're gonna
about.
talk
10
about
feet
changing
from the
to
street?
We're gonna fix that.
front yard setback.
That's if you're side.
So you could put a shed on the front of your yard.
Yeah,
But that's not, that goes.
the corner can be, have, side yard can be in front.
If your side yard is in your street, that's the 10 feet.
Put your hot
5
tub
feet from
in.
your property line or 10 feet.
Put your hot tub in.
Well, that's what you're talking about. You don't want that.
Does anybody want to, has anybody ever seen a shed 10 feet from
No,
from
I
the
never.
front street?
No.
It's for the side.
It's for the side on the corner lot.
It's not what that says, guys. You want to read it a third time? It says front yard.
When you're on a corner lot, it can be different.
Yeah.
Can't be closer than 10 feet to a street.
Yeah.
But he said front. Read it again.
The shed or structure shall be placed at a distance of at least 5 feet from the side or rear property line, shall not be placed closer than 10 feet from the street line.
Street.
No, it doesn't mention front. It's a side or a rear. But if you had a
If you have a corner lot.
10 feet from the street under all circumstances.
So.
But still doesn't say anything about front
It'd be
yard.
like
We've had those
like
issues.
on a little
We've had
island.
those issues where people brought the
It does,
fences
it kind of does.
too close to the
Because
street.
when it talks about
Just
10
take the
feet
word
from the
clear.
street,
One
So
side-
this
it's
is
never
the
a
street,
situation under
this is
any
the street.
circumstance where you're within 10 feet of the street. The other thing talks about the back.
Well, my front yard's more than 10 feet, so I can put it in my garden.
Yeah.
It's not,
No one, I think anyone's ever done it, right?
I don't think they mean front yards in that, they should specify, but I think they mean sides and backs there.
It says back there.
It's bad.
Where, I don't see
That's
backyard.
It
Okay.
should be reworded to side and back.
You think shed should be into that?
Yeah, absolutely.
I don't think anybody's ever done it, but we're, okay, you want to, we've had problems before where the ordinances have been misinterpreted, and you end up at your street where you have a 6-foot fence on the sidewalk. Is that correct?
Whose is that?
Is the end of your street, don't you have guys 6 foot, or is the next street over? He's got a 6-foot fence on the sidewalk.
That's my street, yeah.
That's your street.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that fence should not be on the sidewalk.
It is pretty hard to get out.
Yeah. And it was a misunderstanding of front yard versus side yard. I do your second one.
All right, second one.
I think the other ones are easier.
What's that?
I think the other ones are easier.
You'd think. We got a long way to go. All right, this is for certificate of occupancy. This is a new code to set the expiration date for certificate of continued occupancy. Currently, an inspection can be performed and re-inspected, not performed, for months or even years if there's no date to when you put in for a certificate of occupancy and you fail.
You have 30 days to do it. You're saying it doesn't say that anywhere?
It doesn't say
At
it.
all.
So he wants, Keith wants to put in 90 days.
I thought the state law was 30 days. Put it 30. I'm almost positive. I deal with it all the
He's
time.
asking for 90 because a lot of people say I don't have the funds to do this.
So you're missing the point. Then they should not be given a temporary CO.
We gotta go by state law, right?
Yeah, I deal with it all the time. Just,
State law supersedes.
I mean, I would double check this.
It would just make his job.
I'm always positive it's 30 days.
No, 90's not even, there is no date in there now. So I'll.
So the idea is you build a building and you're not done, but you want to move in, you want to live. And what happens to us is people move in, live, and then they never come back. So the idea is after 30 days, we're going to revoke your license, your CO. Now, what you do when you revoke it, that becomes a little tricky. You can do the day, every day you can fine them up to $2,000 per day for not doing it.
Yeah.
Keith's suggestion was 90.
I think 30 is too quick, I think 60 is a better idea, it's more feasible.
Once again, I don't believe it's our choice. I think 30 days is
Well,
the
let's,
state's choice.
can we find, let's.
I'd like to find
Let's
out.
put it this way, I
Let's
think,
find-
I'm not sure off the top of my head. I think it keeps suggesting it, let's figure out where the 90 days came from.
Yeah,
Okay.
because
You're talking
usually
about
doesn't
curves.
make it.
I think where it comes from is, he's got COs, TCOs that were granted prior to him that have been out for almost 3 years.
Let's find out where the 90 days came from.
Okay.
And then we'll.
So, yeah,
Can I go back to the shed thing?
yeah.
No, is Keith trying to require a permit for any shed now?
I didn't sound like you said no.
No, No.
No, he just wants to get caught up with the state. The state
The
moved
state
it
says if
from,
it's over 200, you need a permit.
right.
He's trying to get it, so now, if it's under 200.
No,
There's no-
you don't need one.
Yeah.
That's
If
what
it's
we-
under 200.
Are you talking about, but you have to, is you talking about a construction permit or a zoning permit?
So a permit,
We're talking zoning permits. Zoning, the whole part of this conversation was zoning permits. So when it says in Keith's email, maybe we should just bring it.
What does the state say?
Stopped in, and he
I'm
probably
just
told
reading
me.
your current ordinance, because
I think I know what he's saying. He's
It's
saying,
saying-
when you're talking about 100 feet or less, now it's saying you need a permit.
No, 200 feet or less.
200 feet or less.
I agree with that.
No permit.
No permit.
No permit.
See, no permit.
Yeah.
200 feet or less is no permit.
No permit.
So you just pop it up wherever you want.
You want it.
That's what,
All you said is.
This, okay, here's the This number, see the 100 there? That's now 200.
Right.
So if you find a 150 square foot shed, I have to come get a zoning permit.
Correct.
So he's not eliminating the zoning permit.
so we want,
That's what we're saying.
we want zoning
If
permits.
it's under 200, you now need a zoning permit.
He's trying
But over
to.
200, you need-
Harder.
You don't need a
If
construction.
it's under 200, you need a construction permit.
He- In his email, he's talking about zoning
It's
permits.
gonna cost me a
Let's
lot
get
of
some
money.
feedback from
Yeah.
him, figure out exactly what he's looking for, and then we'll proceed on this. That's why we're having a call. Sounds good.
So it's over 200, you need a construction permit.
Construction only.
So now you're trying to pull.
Do you know the difference between construction and zoning?
100 and 200. That's where there's.
Construction is building.
So he wants to bump it up, so anything under
And
200.
the last line of his email, our borough code should be changed for a zoning permit requirement from 100 square feet to 200 square feet. He's not talking about construction.
Right.
He's talking purely zoning.
Right.
But so anything under 200.
So he doesn't get a zoning permit for a shed under 100 square feet.
No,
You know-
that's-
It should,
And
the
Mike,
way you change it to less.
Mike-
So let me, so Patty asked a question about the difference between zoning and construction. Zoning very simply says you're allowed to do it. So when I go to a town, I try to find a sign. So I'm doing a sign in the city of Philadelphia. I went on their ordinance, and in their zone, it said, in this particular zone, you're allowed a projecting sign on 9th Street, but it's only allowed to be 4 feet out. So what I do is I draw the sign 4 feet out on there. Zoning says, yep, you're allowed to put the sign up. Then I walk over to another desk, and construction says, well, how are you going to attach that sign to the building? And they say, well, we want to make sure you attach it so it doesn't fall down. So they say, we want an engineered seal showing how you're bolting it to the building. So what zoning says you're allowed to do it, construction says how you're doing it. We're more interested in zoning issues. All of our problems, all of my problems are around zoning issues. My problems are when people do things, and then after they do it, there's a complaint or something that shows, well, wait a second, you went and you built 17 garage sheds in your backyard. And your neighbor comes and complains, says you have 17 sheds. When, if you would have came for the first one, you would have learned you're allowed 2 sheds. I think you're allowed, you're allowed 2 sheds. Now, we can change it to 3, we can change it to 4 sheds.
I would imagine.
We can do those kind of things. Now, I'm going to give you a hypothetical right now. The Borough of Runnemede does not have what's called an impervious coverage ordinance. Remember we brought this up? Does anybody remember
Yeah, I
impervious
remember
coverage?
something.
Who can answer what impervious coverage is? Not the lawyer, not the engineer. Impervious coverage.
Hard surface doesn't allow water to travel.
My man, hard surface. In Runnemede, we have no impervious coverage ordinance. What does that mean? That means a resident could pave his entire house. Now, Len was here one day when I said that exact same thing.
I'm sure he did.
And Len said, well, he could pave his entire house, but then there's another law that says you can't allow the water to run off onto the neighbors. So what I think we need to do, since Keith and I don't mean to hurt you with all these things, we have to get this stuff done. But like, these things are more complicated than just ignoring them or not taking the time to get them right. We need an impervious coverage clause because we need to make it clear that we want people to build houses, we want people to put sheds, and we want people to put driveways in, decks, pools. Well, what happens when the entire property is completely covered? And now we're dealing with neighbors. Do you remember, were you on council when a gentleman from Schubert Avenue came every month? Do you remember him?
Yes,
It was about 3 years ago.
yes.
Because the retaining wall, the water was pushing, were you here for that? The water was pushing the retaining wall down.
Whatever happened to it?
Well, we couldn't find any permits. We couldn't find anything that he did wrong on our side. So we had no mechanism to say you didn't follow your blueprints. And we said to him, you need to go to the courts and sue the guy for the damage he's doing to your property.
Yep.
And most people don't do that because they don't want to spend money. They wanted us to do it
Right.
instead of that.
Sounds familiar.
It sounds familiar. So the reason I get so anxious about all this stuff is I'm the one getting these phone calls when a guy puts his, I mean, Dan and I had to go to a guy's house and basically, did you know this, right? That we went to a guy's house twice to make him, because we couldn't fix the pipe on Bassett Avenue, which would affect every house on Bassett, every house on Singley. Isn't somebody of your relatives right there? It would have flooded the entire area.
Well, no, and the structure would have collapsed
Into Timber Creek.
Yeah.
So this is why I'm so anxious about fixing these things, because I'm only reacting to all these people.
Okay, well, baby steps, Mary.
Baby steps.
One last one is, we actually want, for all zoning permits, 1 year. There's no dates. There's, you know.
From the date of issue.
Yeah, the date of issue, 1
So
year.
it's-
What is that?
What it means
Yeah,
is
it
it
expires.
expires. Because you gotta come back and do it again. If you don't start within a year, you can come back.
Okay.
Because things change, oh, you know.
The only thing I would-
5 years down the road.
The only thing I would like to add to that, when you brought up COs, Keith and I had talked about this last year. But if you want to add with your CO inspections, one of the thoughts was, in apartments, we do a change of occupancy every time an apartment opens up. So we go in and we change it. Some of the neighbors around us, the towns around us, what they've done is, and Keith pointed this out because he works for other towns, is he might go into an apartment and inspect it, but the upstairs apartment never gets inspected. So we're forcing the downstairs and all the other apartments to make sure the smoke detectors work, to make sure their fire extinguishers work, to make sure their electrical and all that stuff, but we're never going upstairs because we don't have a mechanism to go into it. So what the other towns have done, and I actually am leaning towards this now, the idea that we should go at least once a year to all the apartments. Now you say, why? I'm going to tell you why. I had a duplex. I had a duplex and I never went into it for 10 years. The guy died in the apartment. I had to kick the door in it was about 2 weeks. So, but I always believe in a lease, quiet enjoyment. Do you understand, right? You've done leases? Quiet enjoyment, it's his property. You know, he rents it from me fine. But do you
So you
understand?
go dead for 2
He
weeks.
was dead for 2 weeks.
What made you go there? You didn't pay
Somebody
rent?
said it
The
was-
deli around the corner
said it
called me
smelled.
and said, we haven't seen your tenant in 2 weeks. Could you stop by? So being the kind of kid I am, I called my mom and said, can you go over and check him? And my mom said, he's probably dead. It's a true story. So I went over, kicked the door in, and he was dead.
Wow.
But the reason I didn't find him, he was a hoarder.
Oh,
And
God.
the stuff was piled in there, which was what? It was,
Did it
it was
smell?
7,000
Like,
pounds.
that's the smell.
7,000 pounds of trash.
Did it smell?
That's a fire. He could have never gotten out of the place. He could have never, you know, it would have burned the whole row of rooms. It was Fairview. All the row rooms would have burned down. So, my own personal opinion is, a minimal fee, because I'm a business guy too, you know, we keep a fee, we go in once a year, we do an inspection. Where I agree with Ms. Passio is that we shouldn't just keep hitting people with money. We go in once a year, but if they ask for a reinspection, you see how Keith's saying these reinspections and these COs, maybe we don't charge for going back. You see, within that 12-month period of time. So we go and we look at all the apartments, we make sure they're all okay. Now you're right, we could walk out of there tomorrow and the place could be destroyed, but at least once a year we've made sure that the apartments are okay. Because remember, we're only doing the turnovers. You know, there are over 1,000 apartments in this community.
Is there a fee each time? Is there a fee each one?
So they took a third of them, respectively.
You know what? These are all not bad ideas, and you're right. It's about manpower. You know, Magnolia doesn't have enough people to go into all the apartments every year. Barrington and Belmar go into all the apartments every single year, and they found that what that did was it brought the level of, you know, to make sure that, you know, they walk into an apartment and they see it's a disgrace, and they say, wait a second, you're the landlord, you have an obligation. So if you could figure that one out, Mr. Root, if you could figure that one out, we could put something in there.
I got it.
Where we do it, and you can ask Keith, because he does it for Barrington. And if we could just go in once a year, the only thing I would like to ask us, if it's possible, if the apartment turns over during that 12-month period of time, we don't charge them again. You know what I mean? We just, you know, we've already checked it
So it's an
once.
annual fee.
It's an annual fee.
What I'm gonna start with is, I'm gonna give Keith to figure out, like, how long it's gonna take us to inspect all the apartments.
Well, that's a good
in
point.
Runnemede each year.
Okay.
So, and see if we have a manpower or.
Well, here's what other towns do, because Magnolia does it with their in-house. Other towns, and this is what Keith does, they're paid per diem per apartment. I'm not a big fan of per diem for things, because sometimes I think people move too quickly. But at the same time, if you pay people hourly, they might too long, so I don't know the answer exactly. But in Barrington, what they do is, they have 3 or 4 guys, they bang them out in 2 or 3 months. And then, they're just part-time guys that come in, they do the inspections, and they go.
Are they just concerned about those items? Are they counting pets and things like that?
No, they're not. We stopped counting pets a long time ago.
Just saying, because they go in there for one sole purpose.
Yeah.
And does the paperwork also tell you how many people are renting? How many people live here? In case there's a fire, are there any children?
Well,
Which,
it's all interesting stuff. I think the initial intent of the CO inspection is to make sure fire extinguishers.
Yeah, I think just safety
It's all safety.
Yeah.
It's all safety.
of the building.
But you have a good point. You're already there. You could make a note and say, this person, if someone would have went to my apartment, they would have said it was an unsafe structure and forced the guy out. They would call the health department and got him out.
Okay.
Are they safe as well?
Anything else?
No,
That's all you wanted? Because I think Mr. Root said he had to leave at 7. Okay.
I didn't know.
Mike, can you copy me?
Nothing's easy, Mike.
He still hasn't figured out the reason.
No.
Oh, okay.
Every single one of those.
Sheds.
All right, well.
I agree.
She's, Joyce is here, you're right.
So I'm back in line.
Just down there, big pieces. Where do they probably start posting stamps? You have like 200 square foot sheds.
Did he get on the new one, yesterday? You'll probably be one of the ones that he's gonna do for next month.
He should have been here. He was here. Okay, so let's do a couple quick things. Quote for sidewalks on Davis. Mr. Engineer, Mr. Probation.
The very last page of my.
See you guys, thank you, sorry. Gotta leave.
Is a quote from landlord to do with that.
Mike, this is engineering. You're okay with the sidewalks on Davis, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm gonna do with that big tree there. What happens with that?
This is on the north side.
Oh,
It's not the forest property. This is between.
We're doing the easy ones first.
From Pine to Forest.
oh,
And it
okay.
includes handicap ramps at home.
Oh,
And then we're able to hold the unit cost. I thought I might be able to get lower prices, but if I did that, then they would charge for mobilization and site clearing and things like that. So this is a pretty good price for getting what we want. We can add it to the current job without having the tree closed.
Is this the price that you quoted in the email? Is
Yes.
it the same price?
This is the one that Anthony saw, the CDBG money, the 250,000 we
He
got.
said he was all right with adding the change order, however, he wants to make sure that it's
It's
done
not quick.
quickly.
What you have to understand, though, this is not funded by CDBG or DOT.
It's not.
This is coming out
We're
of the
taking-
borough. You had money. set
You're able to
aside.
move monies around.
We did
Coming out
have
of our
one.
account.
Right. So it's not, but in order for me to close out the CDBG portion of this job, I have to close out the entire job.
Gotcha.
So if you want to move forward, we got to take action and get them out there so I can close it for CDBG.
Well,
Do the change order and send it to me and we'll get it.
you want a resolution from
If
council?
I can just get authorizations to do it, I'll do a final change order when the job's done. We have all adds and deducts and all that.
Do you like resolutions for change orders?
Yes.
Yes, both of you?
In order to change a contract, I need a change order.
Especially with a
Joyce, what's the resolution?
situation
Yeah, but I need the
that we're in
info.
right now with something.
Well, just give me a number.
else.
I don't need it.
We'll-
I
Put it
can't-
together.
I can't change a contract. I'm sorry. I have to authorize the funds.
That the funds are available.
Yeah.
He wants to certify the funds, you can just send a change order.
What's the problem with it, Mark?
No, there's no problem.
Why don't you guys talk off the,
Okay, resolution 19 dash what?
What, you doing it now?
Yeah? It's public meeting.
Oh, I don't have any idea. How many resolutions on here? Doesn't matter.
19 dash, whatever the next
Next,
number.
next number is, this will be a resolution to approve the change order from the original Lambert
9,000.
construction. What's the amount?
21,965.
21,965 for the sidewalks and handicap ramps on Davis Road from Forest, Pine, and Oak, or do I have backwards? Forest, Pine, and Forest. Is there a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Mr. Ranieri, second by Mr. Lobenstein. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Passios?
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri?
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein?
Yes.
Mr. Farrell?
Yes.
And that's it. Four ayes, 2 absent.
I think there was just an amount of money.
All the way up to Schumer.
This is the other side of the street.
We're on the north side of the street.
Yeah, we're on the north side, not the kids' side.
For the elder side?
The elder side.
Elder side.
Yeah.
It's a stretch.
So just a quick one, will we be able to apply the Safe Routes to School with this, could we get reimbursed this money if it's our money?
There's a grant.
All right, we'll talk about it. Because I thought CDBG was paying for it. I didn't realize that Anthony was just trying to close out the change order.
This isn't part of in the project.
This is at 250,000.
Yeah,
Mark?
it's a separate.
Doing the
It
easy
was
side
easy,
first.
it was the easy side.
We're gonna do both.
Nothing in the way. You didn't need any engineering. We weren't going to survey it. Anything else, especially as you get closer to Davis.
There's gonna be retaining walls at Schubert.
You need tree removal.
Yeah, we don't want tree removal.
The mayor and I were driving looking for easy places to do it. We were trying to do it.
We've been talking
We were thinking
about
about,
wow.
we were thinking about putting it out as a project, larger, but I said we could do this as a change order and.
This is what Belmar was gonna do for us a few years ago.
Yeah.
When we talked to them. You remember that?
To do anything more substantial.
And then we were going to get the,
Engineering. and I'm trying to
we
get
had
the
the grant writers.
Thank you.
They were supposed to do that too.
It does.
As a matter of fact, I just found that grant.
Which one, Safe Routes?
When we had the grant writers,
Yeah.
they've been
Okay.
submitted.
So we're good with that, everyone understands, it's just a starting step to try to finish this, this whole project that's going around the high school, and then we have to go around the other school. Ordinance for peddling and soliciting, I'm not familiar with this one.
Well, I believe you gave it to me for,
Oh, I think you did this one.
This is the do not knock thing.
Okay, does anyone have an opinion about this? I was at a meeting, and Magnolia just passed this do not knock. Someone told me this was something else that was on Facebook about the idea.
Magazoo has it up in Berlin.
You know, does anybody have an opinion of this? I don't have that problem, but at the same time, the idea is
I
that
don't even get Halloween trick or treat.
that if you pass this ordinance, it would stop people from coming to people's houses unless they want people to come to their house.
Oh, I mean, your town will be known as that, people will be.
Well, I think.
Well, right now, we're having a lot of problem with the solar guys.
I get a lot of knocks.
Do you want to at least look at this a little bit more?
I don't mind the knocks.
What does
Because
everyone
you have
think?
that.
We're communities.
That's because you have that
It's you.
Say
TV.
hello.
It's not these
That's
guys.
because you have
What
that
do you think?
TV.
No, they're not, you think it's a big deal?
Yes, they
That's not a
go.
big deal on my street.
But remember, the do not knock is you voluntarily enter the do not knock.
It's your choice.
It's your choice.
Right.
So we have to provide a list for the solicitors who not to go to.
No,
It's not
no, it's a
welcoming.
sign that, the way they're doing it over in Berlin is that
Oh, they get a sign?
they give people a sign. Here, you don't want someone knocking your door here.
Well, we can talk about it. It was just something that was given to
It's
me.
okay, but we'll consider it down the road,
Okay.
things like that.
Fine. Bob, unless you have a different opinion? Nobody comes down my street.
Sherrington gets a lot of people
Do they
knocking for
really?
solar.
That's where the big money is down, sure.
Well, we can always look at it. We can always put it on for a first reading, maybe next month or
And they
something.
get a lot of business with people knocking.
And then you get a.
Yes, but you know, remember all the refunds we do? Because they go and they pull permits, and then the customer doesn't want it, and then we have to do a refund. Because they're pressure sales, I think. Okay, ordinance of land for behind the VFW. You want to take that one? Anybody want to help me on this one? Ownership of land, VFW. Does anyone have this?
Go with this.
You don't know this one? Joyce, you got this?
this is owned by, it is owned by Benecom,
It is owned by them.
yes,
Who is it?
playground.
Okay, Sports Depot owns
Who
it.
owns-
The
I was-
playground, it's called the VFW playground.
Right, yeah, yeah.
It's owned by the sports.
Oh, it's the
people.
sports.
It is.
It's their property.
It was listed as the VFW owning it, but that was
Isn't this the one
incorrect.
You said you and the mayor, like, were just waiting for the other party to sign?
They wouldn't sign it because their bank wouldn't release it.
Uh,
Now, I went there again, and they're willing to pay the money to get the bank to release it. But then, oh, you don't know this one? Len might remember, it might have been a little while.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
still
That was
have
a
our
while.
forms.
I really don't remember.
Yeah,
So
he wasn't-
Sports Depot is now willing to force their bank to release this property.
I vaguely remember hearing about it.
So what we need to do is we're gonna prove to them it is a separate block and lot though, correct? So what they're gonna do is their bank's gonna release this separate clock in Mahoney. So we need to verify it was a 7 o'clock line. If everyone recalls, we were denied $25,000 to fix up the playground, which I think Mr. Wozon still wants to fix it up, right? So we might even want to do it on our own and then get reimbursed.
Fix it or take it
Playground
out.
at Green Acres?
No, we're at
No,
VFW.
this is at the VFW.
The open
Is that
space
a great place
application.
for a playground? Right on the road there? Yeah?
That neighborhood.
Could we take that,
It's also the VFW playground. Mr. Diori, do you really want to close the VFW playground?
A lot of,
If it-
it's supposed to be for younger children, but
if
it's
the children-
not.
If the children are in danger, yeah.
Well, then we need to replace the equipment. That was the issue.
could we move that over to the ball
It's all
field?
fenced.
I sent you.
We couldn't move that whole playground over to the ball field?
Do you really want to take a playground away from the VFW?
Yeah, I think it's dangerous.
There's a lot of
Where it
kids.
is.
The way,
It's been there forever.
the way they, what do you mean
You can
it's
still-
VFW? Did the
You can still name
VFW
it.
employees
Yeah.
go out and play on? What do you mean it's the VFW playground?
It's their building. It's
Right.
it's their area. It's theirs.
So they like it being there. They like it.
People love it.
Here's something that will be, might throw something in the, throw a wrench in the whole thing. When I went to Belmar's reorg, I came back home and I went to the Eagle Scout, and you guys were there at the Eagle Scout ceremony at VFW. That night I'm outside talking to Kevin McPherson, the father of the Eagle Scout. He says there might be a grave under there, graves under there.
It's been a playground for 50 years. All that Harry wanted to do was,
Take 'em like
there was
a-
broken pieces and we couldn't replace them. And we closed the park for a while, and we got yelled at for closing the park for a while.
Wouldn't Bob Del Sordo or Ken Levine know more about that?
They might, we're just talking about this, it slipped my mind.
Okay, let me remind everybody.
Bob talks.
We applied for 25,000. We would have gone to 25,000. Harry pointed out that the park had a
We
problem.
own the land.
But we didn't own the land, so we couldn't get it. That's all I'm trying to fix.
It's resolved, though. Now it's resolved, right?
Benepal
I
will,
think we need to fix it up. I mean, I take
We
my
got
great
people,
order
we're
there.
gonna get the
It's-
land switched over, then we get the,
we gotta get them to sign the paper.
Yeah.
Harry, do you want to jump in and help me out here a little bit?
Sure
What's your
will.
opinion about that?
baby steps.
Oh, unfortunately, it's a mixed match playground set, we can't get parts for it, and can't be certified.
I sent you pictures of the swings that you
So
should put in there.
it needs to be pretty much removed, and.
And that was our plan.
And we had it for a whole new, for the budget that was allotted to be put in there. We came across this where we have that delay of whose property is what and so forth. I don't know who the borough has the responsibility of it, but we do.
Yes.
Can I make a suggestion?
Why
I
do
think
we
Bob had a
have
good
the
point.
responsibility?
What's the question?
You know, the playground, we talked about at the ball field, right?
Two separate issues.
I understand, but if we took that the unsafe equipment down and made it just a sitting park or something a little more simple.
You know, one thing that people
Or a
criticize,
memorial for them.
people criticize government all the time because we run into a hurdle and we just
It's
rip
just-
things down and we
Yes.
don't do it.
I agree.
And it's not there. I think the way to do things is to maintain stuff and keep improving it, and make it better. You know, one of the things that happened over the weekend, we put scoreboards up. I got compliments for it. There are over 300 kids that are down there using that facility right now. St. Teresa's down there using the facility. So our facility has become a premier facility, you know, because we took something that was built 37 years ago and we didn't just knock it down when it had a couple
I
of
showed
problems.
St. Teresa's how to use
You agree with me?
the Bluetooth system.
Good.
They have a guy dedicated now, a parent, that is their PA guy, that plays music before the games, halftime, stuff.
That's wonderful.
So here's my opinion. I took the initiative to go down there and meet with this owner, because you know I'll go to people's doors and knock on their doors. So he is now willing to spend the $4,000 to release the property, because the bank's making him do a new appraisal. If anybody you know about commercial loans, all this kind of stuff, but the guy's willing to do this. He wants it off too. Joyce sends him insurance every year. You would think they don't want the liability of a playground on their property. It is the VFW, the politics sides of things.
I
The
understand.
politics sides of things. This is the VFW playground. You know, there's a big sign and things like that, you know. We have an obligation, in my opinion, to either get the grant or to put our own $25,000. So I'm gonna recommend everybody right now, in our bonding this year, we should just pay for it. And then we'll continue to work on the legal side of it. And then what we'll do, like we always do, we'll ask for the money back from the county and say, you know what, we did it ourselves, give us the $25,000. But I agree, we can't lie on an application and say we don't own the land. So that's what I think we should do. Let's just do it right.
I
And
agree.
get it done.
All agreed.
Okay? Okay, so the reason we were doing a lot of work on here is Joyce's maps didn't match what it said who the ownership was. That's why this all came about.
Brian straightened it all out.
Brian, thank you. Great. And for anybody who doesn't know, we found two maps upstairs. One was from 1937 and one from 1967. The assessment maps for the Borough of Runnemede are upstairs. We just found them. So if you need them.
67, oh, graduation.
Yeah, really, 67, that's right. Okay, a resolution declaring a total disabled vet, that's nothing. Resolution for three-year option disposal rate, 68.68 per ton. How long is that for? Is that for the year? Or is it
January.
till, oh, it's 1 year?
No, this January.
1 month?
It was for 1 month because of the extension of the contract, all the county worked on a new contract with the $10 increase.
So you think starting February it's $78?
Yes.
Wow. Okay, did you get that, Joyce?
Yeah, I didn't get it. I put the resolution on
Okay.
1 month, but
Resolution canceling credits on various blocks and lots.
that's just housekeeping.
That's housekeeping. Once again, people should know that trash costs us money. Proclamations, the radon, everyone knows again that we did get that radon grant. Joyce did find a place to purchase them. Was it Cinnaminson?
Cinnamon, I got for $12.95 a piece, so
Yep.
we get 152 kits.
So we're gonna have 152 kits. The construction department's going to hand them out. People are gonna fill out who took them. What we're hoping for is not only that people take the kits, that they use the kits, they send them back in, and what the government does, the state does, is that they look at those findings, so that we have some data to
So
find
now what
out.
happens if there is radon in your basement?
Okay, here's what we're trying to do for people. When you go to sell your house, and somebody wants a radon test, and you fail, at the time of settlement, that's a very difficult thing to do. Now you're rushing to figure out how to mitigate it. Now, the easiest way to do it is you have to put a pipe in the basement, vent it out the roof, put a fan in there, and plug it in, and it blows air out there. If you have crawl spaces, you got to drill holes in the crawl spaces, grab the air from the crawl space, and vent that out the roof. Am I saying everything right, your experience? So Runnemede is in a high radon area, so what we're trying to do is make people aware of it. So one, they hopefully fix it, because you can get cancer from radon.
Yeah.
And two, when they go to sell their homes, they're not running into this problem. And that's really where a lot of this stuff comes from. So the state gave us this money, we're gonna give these kits out. What did they say they were hoping for? A return rate of what, 50%?
60% or
60%. We
Return
want people really to return it. Do you know how radon works? You just put it in the basement, you close your windows and your doors, you leave it there for a certain period of time, you throw the test kit in an envelope, and they mail you back your results. So that'll be in the construction department. The Eagle Scout, we have a young man, McPherson, he's going to be here, so we're going to give him a nice proclamation. And then the police department had two citizens that were very helpful in what was it?
overdose.
The code overdose, yeah. So we're going to thank them for that. And then our state senator will be here to present awards to Mr. Leap and New Beginnings. And then we're going to thank you note from Mr. Gioria. Oh, you gave us a thank you note?
Yeah.
The flowers.
I moved on quickly, as you
I
can tell.
I can give you another thank you note for just the opportunity to
I like that.
be here. I appreciate it.
I think we should have those tables where the sycophants, is that what they're called, where they just sit here and thank everybody?
Yes,
Yeah,
sir.
it'll be back. I love you guys too.
Cali Court, I had asked to do this, the lawyer does not agree with me, so let him tell you why I'm wrong.
Well, here's what we'll say on the dedication of the road. There will come a time for that. I'm just saying, I'm going to be intentionally vague in that regard.
They've done some of their work, to tell everybody what they did.
Absolutely. They submitted to me their bylaws. They have gotten their homeowners association back off the ground. Sal has been a gentleman and a pleasure to work with, and he's constant communication with me. And they're very proactive in getting everything done. But basically, my aim is not getting too detailed because it's something I really think is appropriate to discuss publicly in too much depth. but I'd like to wrap everything up sort of at the same time.
So not do a dedication of the road.
Piecemeal
Okay.
kind of thing.
The reason, once again, I'll just say, we have an obligation, and we still will have the obligation to plow that road and maintain that road. Even though we don't own that road. You agree with that, Dan? We've been doing it for a few years now. I think there's still residents of the borough for safety reasons, for convenience. We've got to plow Cali Court. There was a time, because we don't own the road. We were not plowing that road for the first 5 or 6 years. And then the landlord, the developer was not sending a contractor out. And so we started to plow that road. And I still think it's the right thing to do. That's the only reason I even brought it up, but I appreciate Dan's opinion that we don't do anything until we wrap everything together. I agree 100%. Okay?
Wow.
So, I mean,
That was easier than we thought.
That's why I called you this morning, just on board with that.
That was very
With the little grease in the wheel.
yeah, grease the wheel, that's right. Future year CDBG applications. You're all good with that, right? Or is this something I put on there? Did I put this
Yes,
on
you
there?
put that on.
Oh, I put this on. Okay, so the other day when I was talking to CDBG, and I know this is a public meeting, but I don't mind letting everybody know my philosophy. Most of the municipalities in Cannon County are not proactive in their applications. I've gone to enough meetings to realize that the biggest impediment for getting money is the lack of skin that people put into the game. By us taking initiatives to do the work, by us putting money out there, by us doing drawings, by us doing, any kind of studies, it puts us in the forefront of getting things done. You heard that $250,000 was probably one of the largest community block grants given to a municipality of our size in a long time. HUD came down this past year and said that the policy had to be competitive. Before, if you remember, it was Solomon. They took the money and they cut it up and they gave everybody a $35,000. You remember all the numbers were in the 30s, and it was based on your population and your income tracks. So now it's become a competitive process. My opinion, and I think everyone's going to figure this out eventually, it's not opinion, it's a fact, these guys want to see a drawing in hand. We're going to start the project with or without their money, and then they come swooping in like they did for us last year and gave us $500,000. Does everybody agree that's exactly what happened?
Yeah.
That we were doing the work regardless of our money, pretty much. I mean, the DOT, we felt we were going to get the money, right? Because our philosophy was if we didn't have enough money, we were going to phase it. If everyone remembers, we did 3 or 4 roads. We never did 3 or 4 roads before. But the idea was like Reed Avenue. Remember, we did 3 blocks of Reed, then we did the next block of Reed, and then we did the next block of Reed. I think our philosophy has to be the same thing again. We need to make a commitment, but Jim, this is where you come in. We're not the money people. We need to be able to get our engineer to do this work so that he's got a drawing, and that when community block applications come out, we're sitting there
Shovel ready now?
almost beyond shovel ready. We actually got a shovel in the ground. The reason that he wants to close out this money so quickly, did you hear? He said he wanted the work done quickly. HUD has come down and said, if you don't spend $900,000 a month for the next 9 months, we're taking away that money. So they had, what was it? It was like $8 million that they needed to spend, or some number like that.
You can spend it.
I could spend it. So the county, once again, so these towns are getting yelled at, they're not spending money. So I just want to say that again, and Jim, the question for you this evening is, I think council has 1 million projects. And now some are better applications than others, right? They have to be the community block grant areas. We know where they are. We know where DOT likes, remember, off of state roads, off of county roads.
This could mirror what we did for our state aid application, which is continuing Schistler Circle into.
I think that going down those roads, like we talked about, heading all the way into Shepherd, I think the application we had, all I want to do is, I want your drawings done. How do we get these drawings done? What do you need from us to get these drawings done?
Did you propose to do our state aid application in full?
But we're going to pay for it, Gary. You see what I'm saying? We're going to put the money up front.
What are the applications you did
For DOT, it was Schistler Circle, and then continuing.
But you didn't do drawings.
No, that was just the application.
I want drawings.
Oh.
I want to be able to walk to a meeting with the blueprints and say, he's already gone out there and said, we're going to replace this inlet. We're going to replace all these aprons. We're going to do these sidewalks. You know, that walkthrough you guys did. The trees that you guys, when you walked, right, you walked that. Harry, right, you decided all that stuff. I would like to get to that point where we're literally there. Now, Jim, if there's not enough money for the bond, we do what we always do. We either push it off a little bit or we phase it. Where we go out for bid and we say, the whole job or cut it in half or cut it in third.
I don't know how much you're even thinking about.
Then why don't you do a proposal? And then he can figure out where we can get the money.
What about?
I don't even know what jobs you're thinking about. I don't even.
Well, it's the continuation of the existing project. So we did Phillips, Reed and Charles, we did all this. And now we're moving further. We're going around Sisler Circle. We're just continuing down. We're going to cross over to Rowan. We might go to Shepherd. We're going to keep in that area.
Initially, my thoughts is that we probably have some, money in our capital fund.
Okay.
That hasn't been used yet. And, if we're going to incur some debt this year, this fiscal year, we should put an amount in there for roadway improvements.
Yes.
And this way, we have the money.
Or a portion of it.
We can, a portion of it, at least we can have the money and get the reimbursement and kind of work that way.
Yeah.
But in our operating budget, I don't believe.
There's no money in the operating. So that's what I'm saying. If he comes back and he says it's $10,000, I know you don't do anything for $10,000. So if it's $10,000, we put up that money or a portion of that money or enough of that money that when we fill out our applications, we literally have plans to submit to Anthony or to the DOT. That's all I'm thinking. So I believe that we got that $500,000, but we had programs.
I agree with what you're saying, but we need to understand the timing. When we put a project in and we pay for it, how long is the project going to take, and what are our chances of getting the funding? It seems like we have a pretty good relationship, and we should just use that communication and leverage off that relationship so that we can manage it better.
Mark's done with almost.
But we'll be able to find the money.
To do the drawings.
Well, hold on, before you, I need to know how much it is.
I agree.
If it's going to be $100,000,
It's going to be around 60. I'm the only.
$60,000, that's a lot of money.
I know, that's why you have to figure it
I
out.
have to look at it closer.
You figure it out.
Because it's close, we put in for close to $1 million. Those roads, it was close to $1 million.
Do you understand what we did? Here's what I'm saying. You spend 60 now. Those drawings are sitting there for the next $1 million we spend.
I understand.
So we're fronting some money to hopefully, if we get 250 from DOT next year, and then 250 from DOT next year, and then 250 from DOT, that's what I'm hoping we put the 60 up front.
I understand.
But that's 60.
Where do you get
These
60?
projects, we're not getting to the funding we need, they can just sit.
You just sit. There's a blueprint in on a
They
shelf.
don't expire, do they?
No.
So that's fine.
And they might need a revision to look out.
That's gonna be long-term.
The tree has to be taken
I'm
down.
on board.
Okay.
I'll look at it closer and get an official proposal out.
Okay. All right, beautiful. And the grant for the fence, the girls softball, we received $25,000. Who's on that? Are you on that? Do we need engineers' help? Do we need public works? Who's on the $25,000? I want the money spent. And the reason I say by pronoun, I mean, all of us, because we don't spend the money, we're not gonna get more money.
Exactly.
So if softball, you understand the schedule better than anybody. I don't understand it as much, so whatever we're gonna do down there, let's stretch that 25,000.
And let's do it.
And let's get it
The
done.
grant is for a very specific purpose. It's for retractable fences, right?
And fencing, it said fencing.
Updating, banking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the process I say is what?
So there's
Three
really
quotes?
there's really no thinking about what we need.
You
We
don't
know
need only
we
us,
have
if you're
we
just
have
going
to.
around, yeah, quotes.
So far, call.
Apply one thing. I talked to two fence vendors, and everybody's getting away from the removable fencing because it's nothing but a maintenance nightmare and an insurance liability issue.
So-
We're falling over with liens and everything else on who's moving it and who's doing what.
Some of them come in.
So that is.
What do you think?
Yeah, I talked to soccer about my thought about the field. Maybe it seemed too warm.
Let's put fences for the girls, for the
Most of them
softball.
think you're gonna take their house.
Let's do the right thing, permanent fences.
Bad change.
They don't believe
We
it.
can amend
So now it
A
says.
permanent fence is better than a
now
temporary
it's
fence,
under
do you
the
agree?
domain, and it says-
I'll make a phone call.
No, I agree that, you're right. It should have been for permanent fences anyway. I don't know why it was temporary. Is that-
Because I think the idea was to be multi-purpose.
The thought was to make the outfield of the softball fields into a soccer field in the fall, so we can have soccer tournaments in town. Eventually, hopefully we'll get the small field down at Green Acres settled and get it crowned or whatever we need to do, or drained, so they can actually use it. And then we would have 4 or 5 fields in town, and if we get to work on the field behind the Deluxe Bakery that's not being used, that can be another small field too. We can have 5, 6 soccer fields in town and have tournaments.
But do you think that this field needs to be a soccer field right now? Are you hearing it needs to be?
No.
So you think the fences should be,
How does that make us?
it's good for the organization.
Selling t-shirts.
Eventually,
We don't get any of that money.
that,
We don't get any.
But the organizations could maybe pay for things.
Deptford has given their soccer fields, Bicatola complex, to the soccer association. They do
Traffic's
nothing.
really bad.
They do nothing with that, because they have tournaments now and they're self-funded. If we get to the point where the soccer teams, the soccer association can have tournaments, and you get teams in, you get 40 teams in at $800 apiece.
Who pays the 800, where's the $800?
The clubs, eventually, if we can get the soccer associations to be self-sufficient, then we do nothing. Then they take over eventually.
We need some parking down, so let me tell
We
you.
do right now.
Maintain the fields.
We do right now, but if they're able to generate income with tournaments and having more fields,
Yeah.
So
then
that's more.
I'm trying to get a meeting with the Lindsay Shop Show.
They
Live.
maintain.
they would eventually take over everything.
It gets me further.
Like 40 of them, they're more like, literally everything else last year, they're 200.
Well, are you gonna ask them to pay for it themselves? Like, that's been a problem, at least since I've been there.
Well,
Asking them for anything.
I'll talk to you about my thoughts on when we took over everything and how we did it. We did it wrong.
Okay, let's at least finish the, I think there's a lot of issues, you're right. Do you think, though, that we should just put permanent fences up, fix the back stop?
Fix the batting cage, make that proper batting cage.
So what do you think? You can get the vendors back out?
Harry and I went out over the summer and looked at the fences, he has a good idea.
Well, let's get the quotes, because these guys are probably hungry for work, because it's winter time. They're probably getting ready to, they're gonna, go out of the gate as soon
So
as the ground stops.
this is another grant where we have to spend the money.
We have to put the money up front, and then we get reimbursed. Now, do you think it's any kind of a problem changing from a removable to a permanent? That seems pretty minimal.
I don't,
I don't think it'd be an issue, but you might want to reach out to Jack Swarovski.
Oh, Jack.
I don't think that's gonna be a problem.
So you guys looked at it over the summer.
We did, we went out and we looked
Try
at
to
it.
do the
We
bike share
identified
things.
the fence in the outfield of the main field.
The outfield is not, the outfield of girls softball is actually not a perfect
Yeah,
conference.
arch.
It's goofy and so forth.
You think you can fix that?
So now that we have the trees going and so forth,
Oh.
we can actually make the proper arc and everything else.
Yeah,
200 feet.
and then in the other areas, the other fences, there's some talk about as to some fences that are thought to need replacing, really don't need replacing,
Oh,
because we've already replaced them. And then there's some thought, there's also needs to be somebody monitoring them, because what happens is the fences get peppered, they get bent out because.
They're getting the balls against them?
Yeah.
well, we gotta figure that out. you
Yeah,
know.
they gotta be told not to do that.
Yeah, here's what I say with this whole project is, let's get it moving, but let's get the organization part of it. Whoever's in charge needs to meet us down there one day. They have to buy into it. If they don't buy into this, they're not gonna maintain it, they're not gonna, these are some of the problems.
The
that we
big,
have.
the buy-in right now is not there.
But we need to pull them down there. If we need to drag them down there, we'll
So
drag
they
them
don't
down.
want it, they're not buying into getting new fences?
No.
No, they're not as engaged as he thinks they should be, a little more engaged. So I think we get them engaged, we get a few guys down there, make sure they do it, and let's just go out with it. And then hopefully we come under the 25,000. If we don't, Jim's gonna find more money.
No, I think you're fine.
Yeah.
I'm depressed after this meeting.
We're gonna put you out there on the corner, Jim.
When do you think opening day
It's a
is?
very expensive
Do you
meeting.
think opening day is late March?
Yeah.
Early April?
Early April.
So we want to be done before opening day. I know that's tough, That's why we gotta get it done. So if you need any help from me, one thing I'm good at is grabbing people. So, building
You
signage.
get in trouble.
Who put this on this?
Well, we need to.
I agree we need building signage. So one of the things that I know what you're gonna say, so at least you tell me afterwards. We need interior and exterior signage, correct? We need signage at the driveways. I think we can come up with a lot of different ideas. The only thing I think we need is somebody or a group of people, I think Joyce, Jim, and whoever else you want to get involved with this. And it should be the finance, it should be your department. Because my concern is, what do we say? That's my only issue.
What is this for?
If you're pulling into one of our driveways, we have 4 driveways, 4 driveways. We have 4 driveways, we have 4 entrances. Figure out how you want to move people around. Do we want to call this the courtroom, or do we want to call this the council chambers? Do we want to call, you know what I mean? Do you want to push people to the police department, or do you want to push them to the tax collector, or do you want to push them to the clerk's office? Or do you want to push them to administration? So the words to me is the things that I'm having a hard time with. And then after we figure out what we're going to call everything, then we figure out where the best location for the signs.
What do you put tax?
So that should be court and police.
The arrow.
Court and police.
You know, I don't want to get into it right now because it's a worse conversation, but I agree with you. There has to be some type of idea. Where do we want to push people for the different places? You know, that's all I'm saying. And then the second thing I'm going to throw in as a quick caveat to this is, you know, the planning board, they are involved in this whole redevelopment and stuff like that. So the idea of public parking, I think we need to tell people that we don't mind if the public parks on our parking lot.
And that's why we.
So I think part of the signage needs to also say public
parking.
So that, you know, as we do these things, if we do stuff down at, you know, Green Acres, we do stuff down at the girls softball, these are public parking lots, that we are okay with people parking there. I'm not thrilled about the tractor trailers parking at the Harry Williams building. That drives me crazy. It's going to destroy that area. They've already destroyed the stop sign more times than we could put it back up again every time. But you understand, I think that's, so if you guys come up with the words, I'm willing to do all the drawings, and then we'll go out for bid and get somebody to make it.
Can we do it in piecemeal instead of?
I agree. We can, the only thing I'll say about that is if you don't have a plan, like if you don't decide what all 4 entrances should be named, if you don't decide what all 4 driveways should be named, we're going to not have, you can't just piecemeal it. You have to have a plan of the whole thing. Now you might say, you know, we may not do all the signs at once, but if you say, you got to say, what is this room going to be called?
So do you have some extra time to walk around with me?
I do.
I know you do. That's why I'm asking.
But here's where I have a hard time, even on the damn, but here's my problem with this whole project. I'm having a hard time with what we want to call things.
Well, we have to
Go
make
to
a
3 other
decision.
municipalities, and look what they
We'll
have.
call it different.
Wait,
Yeah, but
hold
come
on. Look, Mayor. We'll make a decision on what to call it.
That's all I'm willing to agree to anybody.
Yeah.
What do you think this room is called?
Courtroom.
Courtroom? It's not the council chambers?
It's
No,
court.
it's
Okay.
courtroom.
The Nicholas Capano show.
Court/council chamber.
We don't have council chambers. This is a courtroom.
Well, if you go to different places,
I call it.
There's
courtroom.
different-
Some call it.
Some have a
You go to
courtroom
council chambers.
and a council chamber.
Washington Township,
Yes.
with different buildings.
so I agree, like when I said to everybody, the upstairs conference room. Is that what we're gonna call it?
No, it's Patty's room.
We call it Patty's room.
That is probably.
But you see what I'm getting at? If you're saying to somebody, that's why I say you have to have the plan first and then the signs fall.
Listen, I am very
Covers it,
artistic.
doesn't it?
I will come up with.
How would you get a chance?
Very good.
Are you a room?
You know, because,
or a building?
you know, like office emergency management, you know, that's an easy, police department, that's sort of easy. You know, but where it gets a little tricky is like Joyce's
Trump
area.
Tower.
Is Joyce's area the tax collector?
It's
Is it the
tax
borough
and
clerk? Is it
clerk.
debt
Like
certificate?
it's on the
It's
radar.
both.
Humble for a council.
You gotta put all of it
Can't it
there.
just be court and council?
Yeah,
Court
court-
and council.
Why can't it be court/council?
Court and council.
And once again, I didn't want to go into this conversation. Somebody should have.
But we're not gonna do this conversation now. The mayor and I are gonna spend some time.
But I don't want to come up with the
We're
words.
gonna walk around.
I failed.
We're gonna come up, we're gonna help.
I couldn't
Joyce is
figure it
gonna
out.
help
We
us.
did this a couple of times.
No, well, we're gonna get it done, because people are asking.
But you need outside, you need, don't you think you need stakes in the ground with arrows pointing where?
Joyce, if you start off with the names, you can build out.
That's what I think you need outside.
I do this for a living.
Somewhere else.
Especially in the new part.
I do this for a living.
Mayor, that's why we're
And then
What's that?
on the
That's why
staircase,
we need your help.
And I don't want, I'm not having a hard time with the names.
Get the naming thing.
letters up there
We're gonna-
saying
We're gonna put
police
names that we
department,
think.
construction
Present it
office,
at
yes.
Caucus, and we'll see what everybody thinks. It might not be right the first time, it might, but we gotta start.
Yeah.
We gotta start.
So the two last things I want to say is I'd like us to start having all of meetings that I believe are of sensitive nature upstairs. I've been to too many meetings in this room over the 10 years where we've been interrupted too many friggin' times.
In the meeting
Just a
room?
friggin',
In the meeting room, the upstairs meeting room?
Yes, because that door opens while we're interviewing people.
But you don't mean caucus or?
No, Caucus is a public meeting. But I'm talking about committee,
Yeah, yeah.
personnel.
All right, you scared me.
No. I'm talking about when the auditors come in. We were meeting, the meet and greet for the personnel.
Session.
Nothing anything that's closed. The teams, the organizations, they go upstairs and meet with them. We met you're a new employee, and we were in the back. Didn't we get interrupted 3 times?
You don't think they'll follow you upstairs too?
That would've been
Oh,
upstairs.
yeah, they will.
I know they
That would
will.
have been upstairs.
They will.
No, you're not gonna get interrupted.
Well,
We're doing our best. And then, 2,
So you need
Joyce is gonna get the
sign
mailboxes ready for Monday.
Meeting, you need signs saying meeting.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, yeah. The mailboxes for Monday. I can't do any more cleaning. Once I'm just gonna throw the mailboxes away one day. She's gonna show up and they're not gonna be there.
All right, it'll be a free-for-all.
It'll be a free-for-all. 2 is, the planning board is having a meeting. If anyone's paying attention, 300 letters went out. I, once again, am ignorant to things. I don't realize that people don't see things the same way I see things. I'm very ignorant to that. So a lot of people are reading these letters and they aren't understanding. Joyce is getting a few calls a day. I don't know if any of you guys have gotten calls. I've gotten a few calls. Well, because they just don't understand. And the other thing that bothers me more than the fact that they don't understand the letter, is that even though the words literally say it, there's zero trust of government.
That's right.
The attitude is, even though you say it, you don't mean it. And it bothers me. We put it in writing. It's in a contract.
It's in bold and it's underlined.
That doesn't mean anything. You're still going to take my house. There was a gentleman yelling over the back of his wife,
Yes, eminent domain.
Yelling.
Eminent domain.
that we're going to take his house. She's not giving me any money. I don't have any money to take anybody's house.
No money.
And they don't understand
So the only thing I'll say is that I think council should be at this meeting. As a public, we're residents of this community, it affects us. So any of you could be here. I couldn't find the letter, I didn't know where it was.
Do you want these checks now?
I'll sign one, yeah. I'll sign one out, no, I'm still on a roll. And,
Well, that's not shiny.
the meeting is February 13th.
Yep.
It'll be here.
What time?
I don't have to come, but.
What time is it?
Yeah,
You might not fit.
7
Well,
o'clock.
they would
We may
sit
have
in
to
the
go to Harry
audience.
Williams.
You stop.
What day of the week is that?
It's a Thursday, Wednesday night. That's it.
We're going to do a
If you wanna
little
stop
poll
on
here
it.
about how many people.
You know, I think that I was gonna maybe give a
I say 6.
statement at the beginning of the
Really?
meeting. Dan, I don't know if you're experienced with that,
He's
because
saying,
one of my thoughts was, a lot of what I'm hearing about, I'd like to actually answer their questions before the meeting. And say that all we're trying to do is fix the complaint that everybody says that the Black Horse Pike has.
Right.
You know,
I think that's the
that's,
smart move.
that's all I want to know. I want to explain to them, we are not taking anybody's house. We have no money to take anybody's house.
well, you're still taking away the RY.
Ace, you keep saying it, people are going to keep remembering it. So, I just think it's a brief statement at the beginning, hopefully to quell some of the answers, some of the questions, but I still think they're going to come up and say the same things,
They
maybe
are.
repetitively.
I complain about their neighbors' properties.
Now, we will stop that too, because a
Yes.
lot of people feel that this is an opportunity for them to complain about their neighbors. That's not what the planning board is for.
Councilman Ranieri raised a point that I think inadvertently implicated a legal issue. Moving to the Harry Williams building, you can't do that.
Yeah,
You
we've
advertise
advertised.
for here.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Stay here.
You would have to
You
re-advertise.
have to display, you have
Redo
to
the
dismiss
whole
it, and
thing.
do that.
And send out 300 more letters.
So
I doubt
can
this
we,
one.
so suppose over 100 people show up.
We'll do it in
Can
phases.
we,
We'll bring people in and out.
Can we just tell the rest of them, I'm sorry, that's capacity and leave?
You can phase it in and out.
Yeah.
You can't see.
Get some questions,
Past.
yes,
Can't
believe
exceed
it,
99.
yeah.
I'll talk till 2 in the morning. Doesn't bother me.
Oh, great.
Joyce
Bring
is-
your
Joyce is
blankets and your.
Just have, drink whatever you, just whatever you had this
Dinner.
morning, Kathy.
Send in for
Do that
food.
for whatever you did today. That night, you'll be fine. You'll be shaking back there. Bring that.
No, I'm surprised they,
Just
the
show
weather's lousy.
She's all right.
Yeah, she's having a
So,
horrible time.
I think, but
I know.
members of council, if anybody calls you, this is us reacting to what's going on out there. One of the things that was great about the RY conference calls that I got over the weekend is, they never asked to get the scoreboards fixed. We did it because it needed to be done. I don't think anyone has to tell us what to do. Do you agree to that statement? You know, if we drive around and we see a pothole, we should just fix it, because
But
we
they
know
don't
that a pothole
trust
needs to be fixed.
West Fourth Avenue.
You know, but, you know, we fix the scoreboards without them asking. We're putting sidewalks in on Davis without being asked. We're fixing these roads down by the thing without being asked. The conversations that we're having with the scout buildings and the girls' softball is without being asked. They've not come to us to do anything.
After the freeholders meeting, a bunch of us went to the mile afterwards, and Director Capelli said, you know, I gotta be impressed, you guys are very proactive.
Why be
Yeah,
grand?
she says it all the time.
You guys are very.
Why be grand?
We can attest to that.
He said, I wish many people were, there's so much money sitting out there.
Yeah, I agree, and I think that it's great that they notice it. I know they notice it. You're right, they notice it.
Did he say 65?
He says, "Go up."
fine.
It's
60's
tick,
fine.
tick,
I heard
tick,
72
tick,
more.
tick, tick, tick.
Now, the only thing that I think that people, that when we're talking to people, that this is the first step. They don't realize the complexity of a redevelopment zone. That the first step is this identifying the area for redevelopment. And what I'd like you guys to say to people is, when everyone knows that the Black Forest Pike needs a little bit of TLC to make it nicer and more vibrant. But when you're identifying a redevelopment zone, you can't just put little tiny squares. We basically made one big square. You know, you couldn't say, well, exempt Walgreens, or Wawa, because they look nice. Exempt CVS, because they look nice. Exempt this one. No, you can't. You have to look at an area. Isn't that called spot zoning? Is that the term, spot zoning? You can't just make little squares. So we made a big square with the idea that it's easier to be bigger and always reduce than it is to try to expand. You know, the likelihood of someone coming in doing some major project, it's possible, we don't know. But what would it be terrible if we had somebody who wanted to do something grand and we didn't do the right thing? And once again, the reason we went to Central is because look at CVS. CVS goes from Black Forest Pike all the way to Central. That gave us a good guideline. And the reason we went to the bike path is it was a natural barrier. The bike path is a natural barrier. And if you look at Runnemede heating, they go from the Black Forest Pike all the way to the bike path. You know, there's some natural areas to look at and this kind of stuff. So that's it. I mean, I don't know what it's going to be like. I tend to think that people are much more, I guess, trusting, and I guess they're not. I guess that's it.
Just trusting. but-
John usually is the more happy guy. He's the one who's the doom and gloom on
Is
this
that what you're
one.
going to ask?
Are we having
No
an attorney
refreshment.
yet?
We always have an attorney. It's the
Are you
planning,
doing
it's
the
listening,
one
it's
on this?
the planning board's attorney.
Oh.
Okay,
It's
who's that?
It's
Hey,
Rowan
Ryan.
and Carly is the firm.
Okay, they said, okay.
Yeah,
No,
the
just-
planning board appoints their
Be in good
own
hands.
lawyer.
Okay.
And, you know, so I think we're okay. I think Bach is now our new engineer. So, yeah, I think it was a good move for the planning board to put the same engineer, so there's continuity.
You really don't know.
The problems I think we had a lot with what Mike was talking about is the lack of continuity between the planning board engineer, sometimes with the borough engineer. There was not enough continuity with things getting done. That's how you know with COs that are out for 2.5 years. So that was it. Let's go around the table, then we'll do payment of bills. Okay, let's go this way.
I'll wait for council.
Well, I'll just talk about, I had a meeting with Harry, and I'm starting to get a handle on Public Works. It's going to be a long road, but I am going to give it my best effort to help Harry bring more efficiency and better investments and direction to this town, and bring my skills to Harry. And
Coffee and donuts?
it's not a quiet department. I get a lot of phone calls already.
Are you really?
And I'm learning.
I gave him
You
your
can't
number.
always say yes.
I gave him your number.
I'm learning. You just can't always say
You get
yes.
phone calls? Really?
Yeah, there's phone
Are the
calls.
seniors calling you? I gave him your number.
All kinds. If it's windy, I get phone calls. Why is my recycle can down the road? You know.
Well, what I used to say to people is, I'll be right there.
But
And say, what are you kidding me? You really think I have to?
I'm going to put a lot of effort into it and see if I can help Harry hone things up and make it a little tighter and just a more forward-moving department. But it's a great department now. I just think if a little bit of me in there would be helpful.
And your committee,
Looking forward
don't
to it.
forget your committee.
Harry, are you okay with our next meeting being our committee meeting, a half an hour before caucus? So you're here.
This is Caucus right now.
Next book.
Next time, because you're already here anyway, it's not bad. I think it's a pretty good idea.
Yeah, is that good?
You guys can meet here early.
For you?
No, I have babies at home. No, it's not.
Okay, there you go. So
Oh, you're
that's set.
answering it for me.
There's your.
The one thing I would like to see from everybody is even if it's a tentative committee meeting schedule, if you're gonna say, look, for the next, a half hour before each of these meetings, that's a great schedule. Public events, whatever you wanna do, finance, let's come up with, if you wanna be in the middle of the day, whatever. I think we have an obligation to have these committee meetings, even if they're brief, even if they're before caucus.
Finance would be before the general meeting.
Yeah, and if you wanna do things like that, I know your schedule's similar to mine during the daytime, we're a little more free. But I think these committee meetings really make a big difference.
They
to
do.
communicate. Because I think if we would have talked some of these more, we wouldn't have had as many questions. Like, Dan calling me today, he ended my argument before I even got here. And I think that's the way to do things.
I'd just like to add, Patty and I are working on the next newsletter.
Beautiful.
And we're sending pictures over, we're talking with Ashley, and that should be
Just have to set the
starting
date down
to,
with Ashley.
Can I make one suggestion?
Absolutely.
The money guy down there gets mad at us for spending money. Would you think we're at a point right now that we could put some advertising in the newsletter? You think that would be appropriate? We've been, since you and I have been on
So
council.
be very careful with that.
Well,
Yeah,
because
that's,
Pay to play implications.
What do we?
in what way?
plus, it's,
In that,
People support our 4th of July parade, why couldn't they support a newsletter?
I understand that, I'm just saying, anytime you're selling advertising, you gotta be very, very careful in how you do it.
Okay.
Can you do it? Yeah, you just have to make sure you dot your i's, cross your t's, get everything.
If we had, like I said, how we call it, because, I would say that what we've done, the economy went really bad when we got on council. So we stopped asking for money. Pretty much. We used to raise a lot more money for different events, and we really pulled back. I'm not saying that things are great, but I don't think it's a terrible idea to have, and once again, as long as it's okay.
more pages, that means more work for us, and
Well, let me just say this first.
adding more pages to it, are we really
Well-
saving money?
Well, let me just ask the question that any business owner would ask. What does a per page cost? So if you know that a per page cost you $1,000,
I mean, we can.
you then have to
yellow
sell
page.
those per pages for amount above the $1,000. So Jim, if we know that last printing cost us $10,000, that's all I'm saying. If we could offset some of the costs, because I would think that businesses, I'm a small business owner, and John, I'm not saying we're gonna advertise, but I'm saying that if there's someone in town that we go,
And pay for it.
Well, I mean, we do it for
What's
the
that?
4th of
We already
July
do that.
booklet, and you
Yeah,
see
we
how
do the
many, we
4th
don't
of-
get,
We were doing we did a combination where you could do a small ad for 4th of July or a little bit, for a little more money.
And how
you could
many
be
do
in
we
both.
get?
well, then that's what I'm saying.
We generated some.
So that's all I was gonna suggest. I've had a few people come to me and ask for it, and I'm just giving you that information. It may not be enough people, it may not be enough, and you're right. If we don't have a critical mass to justify 4 more pages, because you're right, one piece of
It'd be
paper
nice
is
to
4
pay for
sides.
something extra, that would be nice.
I just think that it may be something to look at now. and
well,
things
every
like
year
that.
we think about that,
Well, I throw
but
it out
it's
there.
just that we add more pages, we
Let me
want
just say
more
one thing
news.
too. I'm okay skipping it when we need to financially, or just there's not enough information that has changed, because, the last one we did always stands the test of time, and it could be at our functions and things like that, and something to hand out. If it's not necessary, we just keep accumulating
I think
pictures
it's
and
always-
stories.
I
They don't go away.
I
We
think-
could fire them out anytime.
We changed committee though. The public
I
works
think
director
the
has to be in there.
newsletter is very important.
Yes, I agree, I think it's
I
important.
think it's.
Did you have anything else?
No, that's it, progress.
Well, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, I just have a few.
But you?
January 31st, the annual debt statement is due, and it now, Jim told me tonight it's completed. So,
Very good.
You sent it out?
It's submitted to the auditors for review.
and Jim, do you want to talk a little more about it?
Yeah, our debt percentage that we had last year was 1.41%. This year, it's up to 1.62%. The reason for that was, although we had a bond drop off, the 2005 bond, the outstanding principal of that bond was $188,000, which came off of the debt statement. The other principal payments that were made during the year on other financing also came off. But what was added to that was the $1.62 million.
Which was big.
Which was big, and it included the truck, the fire truck, It was bigger than it would have been.
But can you let everybody know, because I heard him say, what is the municipality allowed to go up to?
3.5.
There you go, remember? So we're less than half.
Right, but you also have to factor in the ability to pay.
I agree, our debt is not, I think
our
we've
debt
done a
is
good
fine.
job with
Our
that.
debt
I'd say our goal
is,
should be to keep it under
our
2.
debt is fine.
Yeah.
Our debt is fine, and we have a plan to manage the debt as well, to make sure that we're getting the most interest
Good.
and paying it off
The rating good.
correctly.
Good.
So the reason that it went up was because of the difference between those. But what helped us, our average assessment, equalized assessment of the value of the town has been going up significantly. It's gone from 504 million to 513 million to 514 million now, which
We're trending
increases
along
our
the line.
average. If there's an increase in the average of what the total debt is divided by, it's an inverted difference, so the percentage goes down.
Good.
So that's submitted to the auditors, and it should be filed tomorrow.
Quick question, if somebody drops $40 million in this town, our asset, that goes right on our asset, right?
Absolutely.
So that would be a nice jump, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, where's that?
If
How did you know
if
it's
someone
gonna
does
do
what?
He's talking about the Tapestry project,
Yeah.
La Quinta being switched over to that senior
It's
housing.
ultimately a $40 million project.
Yeah.
If that bangs in, that's gonna increase our.
And that's our goal for the redevelopment too, is to have increased assets.
Right, and that'll be a question for.
And people have to understand that.
That's huge.
We're trying to increase our
Right,
value.
right, exactly. Any
We don't even know if
redevelopment,
it's been
every-
sold though, and
No.
Every increase in development.
Like I say, we have a party when that happens.
Yeah, Babish called me today. You have anything else?
Good or bad?
Yeah, I have a couple of things. Make sure I'm right on this.
Take your
Salary
time, Bob. This
appropriation
is your
budget.
time.
Oh, here you go. Salary appropriation budget revenues are also completed, consolidated into a draft budget, and that will be available by February 15th.
Yeah, so do you mind if I?
No,
Okay.
I'm,
So
my
a
first time.
preliminary salary budget is done. I completed it, I worked in all the increases that we know about, added some new employees that we think, part-time, the fire, in Harry's department where it's needed. So the preliminary salary budget is complete. The appropriation budget is a work in progress. I'm working towards that also with the revenue budget. So I'm hoping that I should have everything consolidated by mid-February, February 15th, as a matter of
When do we know our surplus?
I'll know the surplus next week. So, well, I'll know it from my calculation.
I think surplus is a good gauge for us to look at.
I'll know it from my.
How we go from year to year.
I'll know it from my calculation, but the auditors will know it through the AFS. And I just talked to them today. I'm going to try to get them to come out second half of February. The AFS has been extended, the deadline, from February 15th to February 28th because of the new fast forward that we're using. So
the fast forward is making it 2 weeks
and
later?
the way I'm looking at our surplus, I believe preliminarily, I believe it's going to increase, at least by the amount that we used last year. So
What did you say?
No, our surplus?
You said 9?
Well, I'm just guessing where it should be.
9 what?
900,000.
What?
What are you talking about?
It should be like 1.4
I don't know.
million.
I don't know where it's going to be. I'm just
Well, we have to
guessing.
come
We
up
were at
with-
700 and something last year, right?
No.
Yeah.
let's come up with a surplus policy. But I'm telling you, I will
Yes,
know
it was.
the amount of
I was
surplus,
going in and getting the book after.
the amount of surplus that will be added
Okay.
to our balance.
Jim, what are you going to use for the reserve for reduction this year?
What was it?
Uncollected
Taxes.
taxes. Why do you ask
I
that?
don't know yet. I don't
Oh,
know
no, yeah.
Because we had a good collection rate this year, is that why you're?
Yeah, we have to do the AFS and find out what the percentage is. I'm going to use, the lower the number, the better.
Yeah.
So,
You understand we had a good year of tax collecting this year, it was probably one of our best. And so, when you put.
So the lower amount that I use, the better. That we're expecting to collect most of our money. That's just the buffer between what we actually collect and where we go.
That's good. Well,
Time and attendance software is going well, should be up and running by March.
We're shooting for March 1st.
And starting with paychecks, this Thursday, there will be no longer any distributing paper paychecks.
Everything will be
Next
online.
Thursday.
You'll be getting an email.
Glacial.
You'll be getting an email with a password and a username for you to access your individual employee portal. You'll be able to
This
see
is really interesting.
You'll be able to see your W-2, and you'll be able to see your pay stub each week, along with other demographic information, your address, emergency contacts, different things you can add, dependents, your last paychecks that you received, what benefits you're having taken out. It's a whole human resources thing for you guys to manage.
So this is going to save us it's going to save us 2,500 envelopes, 2,500 pay stubs, people handing them all out per year, and all that labor to go put these all together. So this is something that took a long time to get here. We're getting close.
Who's that? Who's that?
Thursday.
Your
Is that
portal is right on our website.
Yeah, it's
Employee
on,
portal.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
it's on the website.
There'll be a link on the website that you can
You
get.
go right in, you have a
Go on.
password
Right.
and a user ID.
Yes.
Employees too, yeah.
Okay.
What else? That's good.
All right, labor negotiations for white and blue collar workers are set for Wednesday and Thursday this week. And police negotiations are in final stages, and all 1099 and W-2s have been distributed. All the rest is present.
Did you just get yours?
Good job, Bob. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Lamas then.
I just texted with softball, the batting cage and doing the outfield fences line for them, and any other small repairs on the fencing that needs to be done. They asked about getting lighting on the sides of the building. There's a light above the entrance that's been out for a long time.
Joyce, are you owed any information from them?
Jeff has to come in and sign the contract.
That's
So-
St. Teresa's.
I'm sorry, you're right, that's St. Teresa's.
And Bob needs to come in too.
And Bob needs to come in, but Bob has to also provide insurance.
Okay, yeah, I texted him again about that tonight.
So when we get that stuff, we'll get it right.
Well, softball's different, but
We've been
anyway.
higher than that.
The potholes, he said it's on the schedule for that, for Mr. Crowley, that letter. Dean's a friend, and he's just asking me stuff. That street's in bad shape, but I don't know what we want to
The
do.
number streets are on our community block grant. You know, we're kind of going in a little different direction.
That's a dead-end street, you know, so I don't know what else wants to be done. But,
That's it.
yeah, the rest is progress.
Okay. So we'll go this way, engineer?
Yeah. Also, real quick, next year, during the year, I'm going to propose that checks are going to be printed out with the signature.
You're not going to get my approval.
Is it snowing? They said it's snowing.
I will bring it. It's not,
Which means
we
it
have,
won't
I go on, engineer.
We'll implement that, but we have to have a positive.
Come on. You said enough?
Yeah.
Lawyer?
We took care of what I wanted to get the change order for the sidewalk.
Good for you.
Harry, you want to talk about the emergency repairs for coastline?
Yeah.
That's it?
I think we had a signature.
Yeah.
Did you have anything?
We already talked about it, we got them to talk about the progress.
Beautiful.
I have something
Oh,
real
Joyce.
quick. At 5 o'clock, Keith sent me another zoning change.
Can you send me these emails, because I
I'll
got yours
have-
late Friday.
I know.
I told him.
You didn't have much time.
Right.
That he went to a business
So many times that.
and the truck at the, excuse me, he went to a residence and the van that was there was 8,600 pounds. Apparently, our code requires vehicles not to exceed 8,000 pounds. So he thinks that the intent would not have been to, I'll give you this, to prohibit these kind of vehicles at a residence, so he wants to raise it.
Slippery slope.
Yeah, it is.
Larger vehicles. How do you define it other than
Where that is in the
GVW?
ordinance.
You know what I mean? How do you determine a truck?
What are you doing?
Basically, the way we really
It was in the
tax
driveway.
them. I mean, that can be
Yeah,
slippery.
but you might want to change it, I don't know. You
Yeah,
have
in
to
the
talk
driveway
about
is
it.
different than on the street.
Was it in
Add
the
it to
driveway or
the
the
car.
street?
It was in the driveway,
That's kind of.
in Sherrington.
Right. Yeah, that's what it does for.
I would go by the wheels.
Show me a
No
picture.
18-wheelers.
It's a van,
Yeah, it's what do you call it?
It's a
so it's just,
paddle
he just
van.
has it registered higher,
Go by
Yeah,
the wheels.
Delvecchio.
No 18 wheels.
So somebody
18
complained.
wheels is the limit.
No, I don't think anybody complained, it was a home business inspection.
Yes, it
Oh.
was inspected. And apparently the home business, as we change it,
Huh?
See, that's why.
Should that be changed, do you
I
think?
got a whole business.
I don't know
from
what the code says
8,000
right
to
now.
86?
Is it a one?
I hope somebody builds a chicken slaughterhouse next to your house with trucks backing up, killing them all day long. You say, well, it's a home business, it's just a home business.
Who are you wishing that on?
Gary,
Yeah, you have to regulate. I'm not even allowed, if my neighbor can bring a marked truck home,
That's not
They're
good
not allowed
when
in
an
the
Italian
neighborhood.
does that.
Chicken slaughterhouse, too.
Tell them that your neighbor has a meth lab, so he kills your property.
you know what? I had a problem 2 doors down from me.
Mayor Kapadas, are we doing the
I'll
Triton
look at
Award
the
ceremony?
says and-
We're doing the what?
The Triton Award ceremony? I already got the request for that. You know the
For-
thing you do in May or June?
Yeah,
I
okay.
got it already.
Are we doing the same we always do with these scholarships?
Yeah, I think that's,
Okay.
all right, who's up?
Jim?
You done?
Yeah.
You done?
I think everything was covered.
I think so.
Progress.
Okay, it's all you, Harry.
We
You
got
can
Harry.
be elaborate. There is no clock.
As Mark gave the segue, we had a emergency sewer main package, second or third in Bowers Avenue. Was a nice chilly day. I got a visit from the mayor and Director Ranieri out there for that one. Called Coastline Construction in. Jim's signed the check. The mayor probably has it right there, but it was total everything with the repair, mobilization, and restoration was 19,005 and change, I think, for that one.
Yes, 20 grand.
We got Coastline to finish the concrete from the break previously that happened back in December on Clements Bridge Road, so that's taken care of.
Is gas done? They pull out there?
No, gas is still, we have still phase 2 of the project, the small part. First phase of the project, we're to the paving, inspecting and changing that. We met last week. Marcus inspector with South Jersey Gas and the contractor. If you go out and you look at Singley Avenue from the speed bump at Park going down into Lakeview, you'll see mark out paints of white. That's going to be the limits of Singley and the dam being rebuilt and paved.
Curb to curb?
Curb to curb.
But it's just you're giving the end point, the beginning
Given
point?
the endpoints of it, so that whole intersection of Lakeview and Singley will be done, going all the way back up to the speed bump. There's 6 other locations that were failing already that they have to redo. And then the intersection of Williams and 3rd, there's a crosswalk there that was disturbed with multiple holes, and plus where they hit our sewer lateral. They're gonna have like a 12-foot curb to curb to pave there and replace the
And they do the seam like really nice, or
yeah.
they blend
We've
it
seen, and they'll
somehow?
have to do, they still have to come back and do thermal and all the different, where they disturbed, 3rd and Hirsch, that's all disturbed, the thermal, so that will all be repaired, with that. So that's ongoing, watching and meeting with them, with that taken care of. Public Works is flowing with everything, new pickup truck arrived today, sewer utility. I didn't get much to go through it and so forth like that.
It was ordered from last year, right?
Yes, that was in 2018 capital. So tomorrow I'll get working on that. Today was busy with DEP with a stormwater inspection.
How we do? Were you part of that?
We got like a C minus. Got a lot of improvements to do, but compared to other towns around, the inspector said we are doing a great job and we are proactive.
What was the biggest issue?
The manual's not being revised every year.
Come on. But saying that you went out and checked them, like
No,
update,
manuals, yeah, the manuals.
that you went out and we looked at all,
No, looking at the manuals, the Bible of stormwater, there's two different Bibles, and,
The updates are
no, because.
but I mean, did he have problems with pipes? Did he have problems with inlet? Did he have problems with,
Oh, we went and looked at several sheet.
did she have like one that she wants us to do right away?
No, we're.
Procedures, I think it's procedures you're
It's
talking
more
about.
administrative.
I
We have a lot of
understand
administrative stuff,
And
there's
I'm
a lot
okay
of
with
stuff
that.
that.
She went around the town and looked at all our inlets, correct?
She went around, we picked 4 of them to look at, and a couple of things that came up that were surprising to me that I did not know that were responsible, that the stormwater coordinator who elected me to be is on the private ones, Cali Court, that storm basin there. I have to maintain on file the
Our stone masons have to be looked at by the private ones?
private ones.
You mean Kimberly?
The stormwater inspector or coordinator has to have on file the design and the maintenance plan for it, and they have to send the stormwater coordinator a verification once a year that they're doing what is required. Okay, that is a
That's never.
deficiency,
Never.
okay, because with that, correct.
When was the last time she came here?
Uh,
No, I hope so.
No, it was 4 years ago. Because we also stopped at the Acme one, and that came up.
Kimberly, Cali Court.
Oh, they have to maintain their
They're
own.
the big ones, aren't they?
They have to maintain them, and it has to be a yearly inspection.
So Runson House had one too?
Runson House, I think you're right.
I have to go
Yeah.
through, and I have to go through and verify all of them, has to be on our map.
Well, no, it's funny you bring that up, because do you recall one of the owners of Kimberly Court was having problems with their basin and asked us what to do to fix it, because
And
they,
they had somebody in their landscaper in there with shopping carts trying to fill it with stone. So that became an issue.
Oh, that's,
Yeah, that was last year, that was very good. But,
that's the development now? Oh,
the
okay.
maps, not having the maps done, not having stuff posted on the websites.
Max,
They're in progress, but it's stuff that we've been working on, and stormwater has not been an issue in Runnemede. They haven't been looked at, so now everything's coming up, and they're coming out and they're hammering. They're not hammering us, they gave us 90 days to do what we can, and then tell them what we can't get done, and work a little bit more, and go from there.
I mean, last time I remember they came out, one of the things they said is that we were supposed to inspect the inlets once a year,
Yes.
and we're doing that now?
Yes. That was shown to her, she liked our inspection form is very thorough, and the repairs.
Was she happy
We
with
had-
the read?
Yes, because that was listed on it, and we went and inspected Reed. We actually looked at the crossover of Del Sordo's from the state, with the storm drain going into the lake and so forth like that. And she said good luck with DOT, because their inspectors, they have one inspector now handling DOT, because they're just unbelievable to deal with.
Where we did all that work just now?
No,
Clemens Ridge Road, that property.
it's a whole different piece. And then, but, so with that, it's big progress, but we're working on it. The other thing is, well, man, I know Council President will be talking about it on her report, but we had a Green Team meeting, sustainability and so forth like the other week. And we have taken on the Watershed Ambassador, is assisting Runnemede. Okay, Watershed Ambassador is an ambassador that handles a few counties.
Did you like
And
what
he
I put
comes-
on there?
He comes and helps us with stormwater and cleanups, and helps guide us. He's more or less like an intern. So
No. He was a young kid.
he's with a big hat and everything.
He was 22.
Well, just because I'm signing checks, and one of the reasons I sign checks, we are now we're not the Shade Tree Commission, but the Shade Tree Federation. So they will also help us and bring people down for $95.
So is that why you signed checks?
I did.
Just because of that?
So $95, they're gonna come, remember we talked about what trees we're gonna replace, and so there's this organization, it's not the commission.
Well, you knew
It's part
about
of it.
that before
I
you
went-
signed the check.
Yeah, but now I know it got done. And then the pesticide, I'm assuming that's Nick, almost done? The pesticide training? Well, that's good.
And then also, we're applying for a $2,000 grant with PSE&G for a rain garden, hopefully at Green Acres.
I saw your grant for the electric car.
Yes, I'll forward that to you for review. May 5th will be a cleanup at Green Acres, plus a rain barrel workshop.
Nice.
And that will actually, the rain barrel workshop will be hosted by the watershed ambassador. He will be putting that on for us. So with that, properties.
We're going to talk about the sustainable points on.
That's a whole other beast that he is catching on. But we'll work on that.
Yeah.
Because as the committee, we'll bring that up and we'll work on that as a whole.
All right. Anything else? Okay. So at this point, we have payment of bills, which I'm signing, and hopefully everybody's not going to have a problem with. Hopefully we're at least looking at these a little bit. I mean, they are interesting to look at. I will say that. It is very interesting to look at the
And you
bills.
eliminate the handwriting?
There's a bill list that's distributed.
There is a bill list, and it is good to see.
Yeah.
And,
I
you know,
have it.
because once again, when we talk about things like energy efficiency, when you see the bills, when you see how much that we're paying for different things, when things break down, and all these checks that we're doing, you know, I think it's a great perspective to see how much money we spend every month on all this stuff. But other than that, let's go to that, payment of bills.
I'll make a motion to pay the bills.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Mr. Ranieri, second by Ms. Passio. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Passio?
Yes.
Mr. Ranieri?
Yes.
Mr. Lobenstein?
Yes.
And Mr. Fowler?
Four ayes, the bill should be paid. Go to welfare. This portion of the meeting is open to the public. If Dan waits just to come up and speak, he may.
Anything?
Seeing no one, would someone make a motion?
I'll make a motion to close the public portion.
Okay.
I'll second that
Motion by
motion.
Mr. Lobenstein, second by Ms. Passio. All in favor?
Aye.
Is there any other bills of business? We did good tonight.
Good.
Did good. Okay.
Long is good, right?
Yeah, it is good. Motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
I'll second.
Motion by Ms. Passio, second by Mr. Lobenstein. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned at 8:09.